Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to see an amazing what-if story. But before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter was soulmate of Bellatrix? Harry woke on a gasp that cut like glass. The room at Grimmauld Place was dark and stale and loud. Not with footsteps. Not with voices in the corridor. Loud inside his head. A woman laughed. The sound was bright and thin. It slid across his skin and left a sting. He did not move. He listened because he could not do anything else. Stone under boots. Torch crackled. There was the bitter tang of old smoke and something like copper. The view was wrong. Too low at first, then taller, then a whirl as if the world had spun and grinned back at itself. The laugh came again, soft this time. Pleased. Do you feel it, little hero? The words were not in the room. They were inside the noise. He pushed a fist into the blanket to stop the shaking. His mouth was dry. He tasted dust and that copper. Who is this? His own thought felt slow. You know me. You watched me kill the mutt. Purr now. A lazy curl of sound. Say my name. He swallowed once. The air smelled of damp wood and old polish. His scar hummed. Not the hot knife of the Dark Lord. This was colder and closer. Bellatrix. Good boy. He pushed up on his elbows. His body was heavy, muscle stiff from a day and a half of not sleeping and pretending to eat. A floorboard sighed in the corridor outside. Footsteps stopped. The door did not open. Get out of my head, he thought. That is the plan, came the reply, bright and cruel. Only there is a snag. I try to speak and something pulls. So I speak here to you. What a joke. What a delight. Harry slid his glasses on with slow hands. The room steadied a little. Threadbare curtains. A trunk at the foot of the bed. The chair where he had left his wand. He reached for it and knocked it to the floor. It landed with a dull tap against the rug. The voice shifted. Not words for a heartbeat. A rush of heat and wet stone and the slap of boots on flagstones. He saw a hallway lit by torches set into iron brackets. He saw black and silver on a wall. A carved serpent. He flinched. The view was not his. Stop it, he thought, and hated that his thought sounded pleading. You stop it, she said. Try telling a river to stop. It does not. It goes on and on. Her tone sharpened. Where are you? The question struck like a thrown flask. It burst and the air in his head filled with sting and ash. The pressure of the question drove into him as if it had weight. He felt her try to turn the same question outward. He felt her reach for the snake-faced monster as if reaching for a cold hand. Something blocked her. A wall that did not exist a moment before. It hurt her. He knew because it hurt him. A white spark under the skull. He gritted his teeth. You cannot tell him, he thought. You cannot tell anyone. It will not let you. You think I cannot carve through a lock, she said. And the laugh returned, thinner, straining. Watch me. The pressure built again as if she pushed at a door and put her whole spine into it. The door held. She hissed. The hiss echoed in his lungs. He coughed into the blanket and pressed his forehead to his arm. A soft knock at the door. He jerked. The sound was ordinary and human, and it made his eyes sting. Harry, said Hermione through the wood. Are you awake? He pulled a breath in and tried to shape his voice around it. Yes. Fine. Ron spoke next, lower and rougher. We have tea. Mum said to bring it up and not crowd you. We will not hang about. 2 minutes, tops. He stared at the door. It would open and there they would be. Warm light from the corridor behind them. 2 mugs in Ron's hands and a plate of something dry that Molly would call biscuits. He wanted them to stay on the other side of the wood. He wanted them in the chair and by the bed and talking about anything except a dead man and a mad woman inside his skull. He picked up his wand from the floor and set it on the trunk. Come in, he said. The door creaked open. Ron slipped in first, Harem's jumper sleeves pushed up. 2 steaming mugs balanced in one big hand and a plate in the other. Hermione followed with a book clutched to her chest. The corridor light fell across the floor, and then the door shut and the room went dark again except for the small glow of their wands. They kept their voices soft. "You look like you have not slept," Hermione said. Her eyes moved over his face. She saw the tremor in his hand. She did not name it. She set the book on the chair. "I brought something on trauma spells. It is thorough. It is also a bit grim." Ron held out a mug. "Drink before Mum storms the battlements. She said you need tea or you will fall over." His try at a grin failed. He set the plate on the trunk. His eyes had the same hollow look Harry had seen in the mirror. Harry took the mug. The heat bit his fingers and felt good. He said thanks. He did not look them in the eye. Bellatrix breathed in his head, long and amused. "Sweet friends to pet your hair while you lie. Tell them you can hear me. Watch what they do." He kept his face blank. He blew on the tea. He sipped. His stomach twisted. He set the mug down. "You are not fine," Hermione said. "That is not a judgment. It is a fact. You are allowed to be not fine." "I am fine," he said. The lie scraped his throat. Ron shifted his weight. "We do not have to talk about it. We can sit. Or we can talk about Chudley. They have a new keeper. He is terrible. Almost art." Hermione shot him a look. Ron shrugged. "What?" Bellatrix laughed again, softer now. The sound slid around the room like smoke no one else could see. Harry said, "Give me a day. I just need quiet." Hermione nodded slowly. "We are downstairs," she said. "If you cannot sleep, send a message. Do not sit and boil. That is not helpful. That is not how you recover." He almost smiled. She had corrected herself mid-sentence. He loved that about her. He hated that he loved anything right now because love opened you and made a target. They left. Hermione squeezed his shoulder on the way. Ron set the second mug on the trunk in case the first grew cold and said night in a soft voice that did not fit his mouth. The door shut. Their footsteps moved away. The house settled. The old pipes groaned. Harry did not reach for the tea. He gripped the blanket and closed his eyes. "Stop talking to me," he thought. "Stop thinking so loud." She answered. "Your head is full of grief and shouting. It is like standing in a bell while boys pound on it with sticks." He saw a smear of vision again. A long table with silver plates. A wall of white faces in masks. A tall figure at the far end like a thin flame. The fear in the room moved like a tide. Bellatrix drank the fear the way a starved person drinks broth. His stomach rolled. "What do you want?" he thought. "To serve my master," she said without hesitation. "And to break you open until you make a better sound." "You cannot tell him I am here," he thought. "I felt it." "You tried." A snarl slid through the link. He felt her bare her teeth. "Then I will find a way to cut the lock." She turned her mind like a blade toward him. "Where are you?" He breathed in. He tried to think of nothing. Try not thinking. It is impossible. His mind filled with shapes of the room. Iron bed, chair, rug, wand. The picture made a map. He swore under his breath. "You are in a hole," she murmured. "Old wood, old dust, a snake skin of a house. I can smell it on you." Something in her voice tightened. "The smell of black comes through you like smoke through cloth." He flinched before he could stop it. "Family," she whispered. "Blood calls to blood." The words thrummed. "Pleased. I can use that." "You will not," he thought, and reached without meaning to for the scar. For the old wall that had once kept the Dark Lord out when he tried to use Harry as a window. He felt no wall. He felt only the noise. He stood. His legs trembled. He crossed to the washstand and splashed water on his face. The cold made his skin ache. He stared at the water as it ran in ripples. For a heartbeat he saw a face in it that was not his. Dark eyes. A mouth that smiled like a knife. He closed his eyes again. He wanted Dumbledore. He wanted Sirius. The thought burned. He shut it away. "You killed him," he thought. He did not send the words so much as let them fall out of him. They hit the link like stones. He waited for glee. Silence. Then a slow, low sound. Not glee. Not regret. Something more private. Pride, perhaps. A memory brushed his skin. The shock of a red beam in a high room. A fall through a ragged veil. the taste of triumph that had felt like food to a starving thing. Harry's breath hitched. He clenched his jaw until it hurt. "You will not get a tear from me," she said at last. "Do not beg for it. I am not your girl with the books. I am not your mother." He picked up his wand and felt better for holding it. "I am not asking you for anything," he thought. Liar. His vision lurched. The hall of masked faces again. The tall figure rose. Terror moved through the room as if it had a body. Bellatrix bowed her head. The floor under her boots was colder than before. When he tried to see the face at the end of the table, the view went slick and blind. His scar throbbed in a new way, a thin whine like a live wire. "Speak," said the thin voice at the far end of the table. Bellatrix lifted her head. Harry felt the pull that took her words and tried to throw them across the world. He braced. The wall in the link held. A heavy silence fell. He could not hear the other voices answer for her. He only felt the strain as she fought the block. She forced a breath. The breath scraped his throat too. He coughed and held his ribs. "My lord," she said in his head. The same words must be in her mouth there. "There is a hex on my voice. It masks what I would tell you. Give me time to break it." The tall shape did not speak. Not in any way Harry could hear. He felt cold amusement, the kind that pressed down on the back of the neck. He felt the room lean away. Then a command moved through the air like a knife. Harry did not catch the words. He did not need to. Bellatrix turned. Her steps were quick and eager. She moved down a corridor and through a door of dark wood. She reached a cell. There was a figure on the floor. Not a friend. Not a name he knew. A man with a torn sleeve and a face pale with fear. "Do not," Harry thought, and his hand tightened on his wand. "You do not give orders," she said, and raised her wand. He felt the old reflex rising in him. Not the golden warmth of a Patronus. Something raw and hot that he had pulled on in the Department of Mysteries without meaning to. Rage that wanted an outlet. He wrestled it down. He tried for calm. He stood very still. "Do not," he thought again. The word rang in the link. It met her joy like two knives striking. She smiled. He could feel the shape of it even without seeing. A small tilt. Sharp and private. "Watch," she said. She spoke a curse. Pain punched through him as if a hand had reached under his ribs and squeezed everything at once. His knees went out from under him. He hit the floor hard on one hip. The wand skittered. The sound in his ears was white and mean. He tried to pull in a breath and could not. His vision went bright at the edges. The scream in the cell did not belong to him. It still felt like his throat tore. He clawed at the rug. His fingers closed on thread. He could not make them let go. Heat climbed the back of his neck. He heard his name through wood. "Hermione again." "Harry, are you there?" He could not answer. The pressure in the link faltered. He felt Bellatrix choke. He felt her shock. The curse broke. The man in the cell sobbed. Harry dragged in a breath that rasped. "What did you do to me?" she whispered. The pleasure was gone. The words were small and flat. Harry pushed onto his side. The room tilted. He swallowed bile. He reached for his wand and found it and clung to it. He forced his mind to shape words. Not out loud. Into the link. "You do that to me," he thought. "You hurt someone and I feel it. You keep doing it and we both go down." A beat of stunned quiet. "My lord will not allow this," she said. And he could taste the thin edge of panic under the words. Harry stared at the door. He could not stand yet. He could hear Hermione and Ron whisper outside. He pictured their faces if they saw him on the floor and shaking. He pictured the way Hermione would fold the facts into a theory. He pictured Ron's anger not at him, at the world. He loved them for it. He could not let them in. Not yet. "Do not knock again," he called through the wood, voice raw. "I am trying to sleep." Silence outside. A small pause. Then the soft sound of their feet moving away. He lowered his head to the rug and closed his eyes. Sweat cooled on his skin and made him shake harder. Bellatrix did not move for a moment. He sensed it. A stillness in a room far away. Fear. Not of the man on the floor. Not of him. Of the simple fact that something bigger than her will had reached in and turned her hand. When she spoke again, the laugh was gone. Her voice was low and clean. "We are bound." He did not answer. "I do not share," she said. The words were almost a growl. The old possessive heat returned in them, different now. Not glee. A decision. He rolled onto his back. The ceiling was a gray square in the dark. He listened to his breath. He waited for the tremor to ease. "You will not touch anyone," he thought. "You lay a finger on a prisoner or a child or a friend and I take it with me. Feel that. Feel every bit of it." A hiss like steam. Then, in a voice that sounded like a hand closing, "Mine." He opened his eyes. The word hung in the dark between them. Not a pet name. A claim. No, he thought. Not yours. Not his. Not anyone's. "We will see," she answered. He forced himself to sit. Every muscle felt used up. He dragged the chair closer with his foot and leaned his elbows on the trunk. He set his wand on the wood and looked at his hand until the shake slowed. He needed facts. He needed rules. What had just happened was not random. It was a shape. He could learn the edges. "You cast the curse and it struck me," he thought. "Not the same pain. Not in the same place. Enough to break you off it. Enough to stop you." He pulled a breath through his nose. "It hurt less now." "Good. That means there is a ceiling on what you can do without making us both fall over." "You think you can map me," she said. Amusement again. "Then, I can try," he thought. "Try then, little hero." He listened to her move. The steps were tight and fast. She left the cell. She shut the door. She turned down a hall where the air felt full of old spells. He could feel the trace of them across his teeth. Wards. Runes. He filed it away. His head hurt, but it was a useful hurt now, the kind you get after a long day of learning. She stopped. He felt her look toward the room with the tall figure. She did not go in. She turned away. She went down a stair. She pushed a door and the smell of night pushed back. He tasted wet leaves. He heard an owl far off. The link softened. Not quiet. Not safe. Softer. He let his shoulders drop a fraction. "Sleep," she said, and the word was almost gentle. "You will need it. Tomorrow I will try again." He shut his eyes. He did not sleep. He waited for his heart to slow. At some point it did. At some point the noise thinned and settled into a low hum. A wrenching jolt ripped through his chest. He fell forward and caught himself on his hands. The rug burned his palms. The air vanished. His body went cold and hot at once. Far away a spell had lit. Not a curse. Something like a knife drawn in a ritual. The link dragged tight, as if a rope had been yanked. It demanded answers he could not form. "What did you do?" he thought. Teeth set against a shout. "Testing," she said through a breath that shook. Not words for a moment. Just a tremor. Something hurt her too. The sound of it slid under his skin and made his muscles hitch. Then her tone steadied. "I tried to tell him again." The wall held. Pushed back harder. "Tastes like your mother's magic. I hate it." He pressed his forehead to the trunk. The wood was cool. He breathed through his mouth. "Do not try again," he thought. She ignored that. "Next time I will use a knife. Not a wand. You try and we both bleed. Then teach me how to stop the pain," she said. Not a plea. A demand. He opened his eyes. No one had ever asked him to teach Bellastrix anything. The idea was wrong in a way that made his skin crawl. He did not say no. He did not say yes. "We need rules," he thought. "We set them now or we break." Silence. Then very quiet. "Speak." He swallowed. Words came slow. Simple. "You do not hurt. I do not tell them about you. You do not lead them to me. I do not lead them to you. We both live. We both breathe. If one of us breaks the rule, the other pulls." She considered it. He could feel the turn of her mind. Sharp. Hungry. "Add one more," she said. "When I call, you answer. If I call in the night, you come. Or I come and take you." He could feel the shape of the demand slotting into place like a trap. "No," he thought. "Yes," she answered, and he felt the pull begin again. Slow and steady. The start of a tide that would wear down stone if it kept at it. He stared at the door. He heard nothing there now. The house slept. His bones ached. His skin buzzed with the memory of pain. The promise of more sat between them like a new thing born. He pulled the blanket over his shoulders. He sat in the chair with his wand across his knees and his back to the wall and watched the dark crawl toward the first hint of gray. The voice came once more, almost a whisper. "Sleep while you can, Harry." He did not answer. He did not sleep. He waited for light that would make no difference, and for a day that would make the same demand as the night. Down a long corridor far away, Bellatrix drew a slow breath and smiled without joy. She did not raise her wand. She did not speak a curse. She walked toward a door where fear waited in neat rows like cut flowers, and she chose for 1 hour not to pick any. The hum in his skull eased a fraction. He closed his eyes and told himself a clean lie. "I can control this." The lie held for 3 breaths. Then the house creaked, the link tightened, and something on the other end began to move toward him with purpose. Morning at Grimmauld Place tasted like soot. Harry woke sitting up in the chair where he had fallen asleep with his wand across his knees. His neck hurt. His back had a thin line of fire where the chair bit into it. The house groaned the way old things do when they remember they are still here. The hum in his head was quiet for once. Not gone. Quiet. He let himself breathe in and count. 1, 2, 3. The count steadied the shake in his hands. The shake did not stop. "You breathe like a boy trying to be older," said Bellatrix. She did not bother to pretend it was a greeting. "You watch like a thief," he thought back, and reached for the glass on the trunk. The water had gone warm. He drank anyway, a flutter of silk in the link. She liked the word thief. He felt it. "Am I in your house, little hero? Or are you in mine?" "Neither," he thought. "We are in the mess you made." He stood, slow at first in case the floor went sideways. It did not. He rolled his shoulders, rubbed the back of his neck, and crossed to the window. The curtains were heavy and dusty. He parted them with 2 fingers and let a thin triangle of light cut the dark. The street outside was gray and still. Somewhere a cart rattled over cobbles. Somewhere a cat yowled and then went silent as if it had remembered something important. The link brightened, not louder, brighter like a lamp turned a fraction. He felt her walk, marble under her boots. The air around her carried a clean chill that did not belong to a cellar. She was not in a cell. Not now. A hall then. A manor with old money and newer fear. He did not need a map of it to know its name. Malfoy Manor, he thought. Her smile brushed his skin. "Say it again." "No." He pulled the curtains shut. The room went soft and dim. He heard a footstep on the landing. Then another. Ron. You could tell by the weight. He kept walking. Harry waited for the next sound. Hermione. She did not stop. He listened until the footsteps disappeared toward the kitchen. "You want to test it," he thought, and did not dress it up. "We both do. I can feel you pull when you wake. You can feel me pull when I breathe too fast. We need to know what pulls what." "Accurate," she said, and the word had a dry taste in his mouth. "What game then?" "No game. Rules and costs. If you try to hand me to him, it hurts you. If you cast a curse that tears a man in half, it hurts me. Work with what is real." "You think I need a lecture on real," she said, amused. "Today there is a meeting. The real in those rooms could drown a town." "Tell me where," he thought. "Please," she said, and the word came out like a knife cleaned on silk. "Ask nicely and perhaps I will purr." He did not give her the word. He leaned his shoulder to the cold wall and thought of steps that were not words. Breathing method. Slow. Shut his eyes. Imagine a door. He had learned this with Snape, hating every minute, and it had still worked sometimes. He built the idea of a door and set it between his mind and hers. The hum dropped a shade. Not gone. Bearable. She noticed. A pause. Then the edge in her voice came back. "You try to close it and I scratch." Not closed, he thought. Slowed. "If I am going to listen, I need to stand up while I do it." "Stand then," she said. "Listen. If I die, you feel it. If you die, I feel it. We are past bargaining. We are simply 2 creatures trying not to fall." He did not like the word creature. He let it pass. He cleaned his teeth with a rough brush and cold water. He washed his face again. He dressed. The tremor went into his sleeves where it did not show as much. He opened the door and stepped into the hall. The smell of bacon climbed the stairs. He did not feel hungry. He went anyway. Kitchen. Warmth. A kettle rumbled. Pan hissed. Molly Weasley stood with her back to him, hair pinned up, shoulders set like a barricade. On the table were mugs, bread, jam, a jar of something dark and sharp. Ron sat with his elbows out and a newspaper folded to the Quidditch page. Hermione had a book open beside her plate and a pencil in her hair. She looked up first and gave him a steady look that did not pry. "Morning," she said. "Sit. Eat." He sat because not sitting would start a conversation he could not have. Molly turned, saw his face, softened, and slid a plate in front of him. She did not say eat. She did not have to. Ron tapped the paper. "Cannons are still terrible," he said. "It is almost art. You could paint it and hang it in a gallery. Entire critics would nod." Hermione made a sound that could have been a laugh if she let it. She nudged the book aside. "We can talk cannons. Or we can talk about your sleep," she added, eyes on Harry. "And what you dreamed." He cut a bit of bread. He set jam on it without seeing the spoon. He said it was nothing. He put the bit in his mouth. Chewed. Swallowed. It sat in his stomach like a stone. She waited. Then, careful, she corrected herself. "That is, it was not nothing. It was something, and you are allowed to keep some things quiet for a day. But not forever." He looked at her and almost said it. Then the link tightened like a leash. He felt cold air and a tall chair and eyes that looked at the world like a ledger. The moment was gone. "Meeting," Bellatrix said, and her tone had changed. Too smooth, too precise. She was performing already. "Be ready, little hero." Dumbledore stepped into the kitchen, and the room carried itself taller without anyone moving. His cloak dripped a line of rain on the floor. His eyes went at once to Harry, and he smiled in a way that did not meet his eyes. "May I steal a few minutes?" he asked, and Molly said of course and swiped the rain with her wand and set another mug on the table by reflex while she glared at the drip as if it had done it on purpose. Ron folded the paper. Hermione closed the book with her hand inside to keep her place. Harry wiped his fingers on a napkin and stood. He followed Dumbledore down the hall, past the old umbrella stand that had tried to bite him once, into the library with the smell of dust and ink and time. Snape was already there. Harry stopped in the doorway. No one had said Snape would be here. That was the sort of detail you ought to say before you say come for a chat. "Potter," Snape said in that smooth and tired voice. He did not say good morning. He did not sit. He folded his hands behind his back and watched Harry like a man ready to take a step that would put them on different ground forever. Dumbledore shut the door with a quiet click. He took a chair. He did not tell Harry to sit, which made sitting feel like a choice instead of an order. Harry sat anyway. "We are worried about your sleep," Dumbledore said. His tone was gentle. The lines around his eyes looked deeper. "The Ministry night has cost us all, but you carry more of it than most. Your scar has been still. That is good. Your eyes are, however, quite red. That is less good." Harry looked at the floor. The grain of the wood ran like small rivers. He could follow one from nail to nail and never lift his head. He did not. "I am fine," he said. Snape moved a fraction. The corner of his mouth went up, not in a smile. "Fine," he said, and the word came out with a long drawl. "Define fine." Harry kept his voice even. "I am tired. I will sleep." Snape took a single step closer. "We will get past the pleasantries. Word reached me that you had vivid nightmares. That you muttered, and then shouted, and then went quiet. You did not wake. Your friends shook you and you did not wake." He looked at Dumbledore without turning his head. "Your boy is keeping secrets again. Hermione told you," Harry thought, and felt a quick spike of anger that hurt and then cooled because of course she would tell someone if she thought he would not tell anyone. She wanted him alive. He could hardly fault her for that. The link twitched. Bellatrix listened like a cat by a crack in the wall. She felt Snape in the room and she did not like it. She sent a smear of contempt. "Greasy traitor," she murmured. Harry did not let it stick. Dumbledore poured tea and did not drink it. He looked at Harry instead. The look was kind and heavy. "Will you allow Severus to continue with the occlumency lessons?" he asked. "Not to control you. To give you a way to rest. You may hate the lessons and still use them." Bellatrix hissed in his head. Teach you to close me out and I teach you to open. Choose, little hero. Harry nodded once. Fine. He did not look at Snape while he said it. Snape nodded back the smallest bit, as if tipping a coin into a pocket. We begin tonight, Snape said. After supper. Bring a clear mind. Or as clear as you can make it. Harry stood. We are done. Dumbledore did not stop him. He looked as if he wanted to. He did not. That mattered. Harry filed it away with the other small facts he was collecting to stay upright. He stepped back into the hall. The house seemed longer. He wanted to walk until the walls ended. He went to the back door and out into the small shadowed yard where the sun never quite touched the flagstones. The air was cold and damp. His breath smoked. He leaned his hands on the stone wall and listened. Malfoy Manor opened its doors inside his head. He felt the weight of wards that did not like visitors. He felt the way the place had been taught to notice and to punish. He tasted something metallic, not blood, memory perhaps. The meeting had begun. A long table. Figures in chairs along either side. A tall shape at the end, the air around it colder than the room. Bellatrix slid into her place on the left with the grace of a blade. Her face went still. Her mind did not. He felt her push her own thoughts into neat lines the way she had learned to do so she could be cruel without spilling. Speak, said the thin voice that did not need to raise itself to be heard. My lord, Bellatrix said aloud and in his skull both at once. The double struck Harry like a blow. He braced. Report, said the voice. Bellatrix did not try to tell him about Harry. She would not waste herself on that wall again. Not in front of all these eyes. She spoke of patrols and raids and a family who had run and been dragged back. She listed names and numbers. Harry saw a village door broken open and a child scream and a woman stand in a kitchen with a knife as if that would save anything. He tasted bile. He swallowed it. He listened for something he could use without making the room in his head tilt. There is a murmuring in the order, she lied, and Harry felt the neatness of the lie as if she had set a cloth smooth on a table. They are fracturing. They question your reach. There is talk of moving a high-value artifact from a safe site to another, less predictable place. Which artifact, said the voice. The word artifact put frost on Harry's skin. He did not let himself think a name. He did not let himself think of small books and cups and a ring on a dead hand. He thought of nothing. He held his breath and let it out very slow. My lord, said Bellatrix. And there was the smallest catch in the middle of the words where the wall in her throat pushed back. I require 1 day to confirm the report and identify the route. 1 day, said the voice. You will bring me proof. If you fail, I will send the proof back to you inside your skin. The room bowed as if the air had pushed down. Bellatrix bowed with it. The link tightened, then eased a fraction. The meeting moved on. Men spoke with voices that made wet sounds on the hard surface of the table. Women spoke with voices that cut and then were quiet. Harry stood in a yard that did not know the sun and counted how many doors you would need to lock to keep a monster inside a room like that. There were never enough doors. He went back inside when his hands went too numb to feel the wall. In the kitchen, Ron had washed the plates and set them to dry. Hermione had laid a sheet of parchment on the table and wrote a few neat titles in the corner. She looked up at Harry and then at the parchment as if she had been caught writing a letter to someone she could not name. We made a list, she said, and tapped the parchment with the side of the pencil. Not a plan. Just a list of things to read and do. Sleep when you can. Talk when the talking will help. Breathe the way Madame Pomfrey taught you. Ron added biscuits, which is not really a plan, but I am not going to remove it because he will bristle. Ron bristled. It is a sound plan. Biscuits are never the wrong call. Harry sat. He pressed his knuckles against the edge of the table to see if the wood was real. It was. He looked at the list and nodded as if he agreed. He said thank you because that word was still true. Bellatrix slid a thought under the words like a note under a door. The artifact is bait. He will move it in order to draw a spy. You will want to stop that. Do not. Let it move. Watch who reaches for it. You want an order spy to fall, he thought. I want the nest to tear at itself, she said simply. Every family spills blood when a secret turns out to have teeth. Why should yours be different? Hermione nudged the parchment toward him. We can add anything you want, she said. Or we can shred it and start over. Your choice. He put his finger on the line that said sleep when you can. I can do this one, he said. Good. Then start now. He blinked at her. Now. She nodded. Yes. Close your eyes. Tilt your head. Breathe the way Madame Pomfrey taught you. Count 4 in, hold 6 out. If you cannot sleep, you can do the breathing anyway. It calms the nervous system. It also gives me 10 minutes to get through a chapter of this book without watching your face for cracks. Ron made a face. That is cold. It is practical, she said. Then she softened it. It is also kind. The kind that works. He closed his eyes and tried. He breathed. 4 in. Hold. 6 out. The chair creaked. The house breathed with him. The hum in his head did not go, but it matched the rhythm for a count of 10. He almost fell into it. Bellatrix broke the rhythm with a small, sharp pull. Do not sleep yet, she said. I have a gift. No, he thought, without heat. Not now. Now, she said, and she did not wait for consent. The link turned into a corridor with walls made of memory. He did not want to walk. He walked because there was no third choice. He found himself inside a house that smelled of polish and old cold flowers. Portraits watched with black eyes that followed without blinking. A girl with black hair sat very straight on a chair that wanted to be a throne. A woman stood behind her with a hand on her shoulder that never flexed. The hand was a ring and a command. The girl held a wand across her knees like someone given a blade and told never to look down at it in case her head bowed and looked like shame. Speak, said the woman, and the voice was a frost that did not melt even in summer. I will not marry a man who cannot win a duel, the girl said, and the words were bright because they were the only bright thing she owned. The woman's hand pressed. You will do as you are told. You will be the point of the name. You will cut where I say, and you will lie down when I say, and you will smile the way I tell you to smile, so that the neighbors die of envy in their kitchens. The girl looked forward and did not blink. A portrait of a dark-haired cousin in a different frame smiled a small smile that promised laughter if you broke the rules. And then the laughter was gone when a second portrait in the next room shouted and the girl did not turn. She learned early not to turn. The door opened. A man entered with a careful step that said he had learned where to put his weight to make the floorboards approve. He had a forehead that wanted to frown and a mouth that smiled without asking permission from the rest of his face. He looked at the girl and then at the woman and said the correct words. The woman's hand lifted a fraction. The air loosened. The girl did not breathe until the man left. Then she did. Quiet. The sound she made was not a sob. It was the sound of a girl very carefully not sobbing. Harry came back to the kitchen with tears salted at the corners of his eyes. He did not move his hands. He did not reach for his face. He kept his breath in the pattern for 2 rounds and then broke it because he had seen enough to know he would not sleep now. He opened his eyes. Hermione put her pencil down and did not say anything about tears. Ron looked away with his jaw set tight. You shared more than you had to, Harry thought into the link. He did not ask why. He already knew the answer. She had not done it to be kind. She had done it to sew herself into the piece of him that softened at the sound of anyone not sobbing. Bellatrix's answer came after a small pause. She did not put a joke on it. You needed to know what I was before I met him, she said. So when I take his orders apart in my head, you will trust that I do not miss the cracks because I want to. Trust is not what we have, he thought. No, she said. But hunger looks like trust if you squint. I prefer hunger. It is honest. He stood. The chair scraped. Hermione looked up. Dumbledore and Snape want a clemency tonight, he said. I will go to the library and read something boring until that happens. I will sit with you, Hermione said at once. Ron stood too. And I will fetch biscuits. Harry felt the first small laugh of the day rise in his chest and sit there like a bird that did not want to move in case the branch broke. He nodded. All right. He took a step. The link broke the moment in 2. Bellatrix stood in a small room off the hall at Malfoy Manor. The walls were covered in pale silk. There was a chair with a back that forced a person to sit in a way that looked elegant if you had never had to hold your muscles like that for more than a minute. A young man with pale hair leaned against the mantel and looked at her like a boy trying to learn how to be a man in a house that never taught anyone to be gentle. Draco, she said aloud, and let Harry hear the shape of the name the way she said it to family. Her tone made him straighten. My mother wants to know if you are well, he said. She told me to ask. He avoided her eyes. Tell your mother that I am thrilled beyond words, Bellatrix said. Then she stepped close and put 2 fingers under his chin and tilted his face up. Do not bring your father into this room with your mouth, little dragon. Keep him out of my doorway. He will make me angry and I am trying not to spill. Draco swallowed. He nodded. He left without trying to be clever again. The door shut. Bellatrix exhaled in a slow measured line and showed Harry none of the nerves that ran under it. He felt them anyway. He did not send comfort. He sent facts. You said a day, he thought. Use it. I will keep the order from rushing the bait. She heard the word bait and smiled with her eyes. Clever. If you lie to your teacher today, lie clean. He did not say that he had already begun lying. He did not say that his chest hurt in a way that made thought slow when he lied to Hermione. He did not say that even now he wanted to tell her everything and let her put a shape to it that would stop him from falling. He did not say it because he had chosen a different cost. You cannot pay all the prices. You pick the one that buys you the thing you have decided you cannot live without. He had decided he could not live without this new map of pain and rule and pull. He had decided to live long enough to learn it. The day dragged. He sat in the library with Hermione and Ron. Hermione read and underlined and stopped to correct a line where the book used a term in a sloppy way. She said out loud that the sentence needed a proper verb, then flushed and said sorry, then added that she would not be sorry for caring about words. Ron ate 2 biscuits before lunch and 1 after lunch and put 1 in his pocket for later and pretended he did not. The door opened in the late afternoon and Snape stood there like a line cut into a page. Now, he said, and turned. Harry stood. He went. In the drawing room the curtains were shut. The air felt old and close. Snape faced him. Dumbledore stood by the hearth with his hands behind his back and watched both of them with the kind of attention that can be gentle and still iron. Clear your mind, Snape said. Harry thought of Bellatrix at a long table and of Dumbledore with rain on his cloak and of Hermione writing sleep when you can in neat letters that steadied his throat. He tried to clear his mind anyway. He felt a thought fall and hit another thought and make a noise, and then the noise was all he could hear. Snape drew his wand. Legilimens. The room moved. The chair from last night came at him. The white flare from a curse. Sirius falling. The breath punched out of him. He tried to put up the door he had pictured. Bellatrix felt the shift and threw a thread of herself into the space, curious and annoyed at the same time. Do not, he told her, and the word carried weight because it hurt both of them if she pushed here. She withdrew with a hiss. Harry made the door again. Snape pushed. Harry pushed back. The push was not noble. It was a hard line of anger that said get out. Snape stopped. A small nod. Again. They did it again. And again. Harry learned the way his breath went crooked when he lied to himself. He learned the way a memory could be moved aside without breaking. He learned the weight of Snape's mind when it leaned on a wall he had made too thin in one corner. He learned that Dumbledore would speak only when he had to, and when he did the words would have the shape of a path. Enough, Snape said at last. There was a thin sheen of sweat at his hairline. He wiped it away as if it were an insult. You will practice this pattern at dawn and at night. You will fail in the middle of the day. You will do it anyway. If you want rest, earn it. Harry put his wand back in his sleeve. He nodded. He could still taste the hum of the link. He could still feel Bellatrix watching the door he had made. He named the parts of the room to himself in order and then in reverse. Chair, rug, hearth, door. It helped. Dumbledore stepped close enough that Harry could see the pale scars on his right hand. Thank you, he said. He did not say for what. He did not need to. Harry left the room. The corridor smelled of polish. He went down the stairs to the kitchen. Hermione looked up from the book and raised her eyebrows. Ron held out a biscuit from his pocket with a flourish as if it were a prize. Harry took it. He bit it. It was sweet and dry and good because it was a thing that did what it promised and no more. When he went back to his room, the house had gone quiet. He shut the door and sat on the bed and waited. Bellatrix spoke without preamble. He will move a small relic tonight from the old forest to a church cellar in a town no one notices. There is a name sewn to it that matters. Not the relic. The name. Watch who follows the name. That is your spy. Do not stop them. Let them show you where they take the story when they think no one is listening. Why tell me, he asked. Because I want the same thing you want, she said. A world where we still draw breath when the counting is done. That is not all you want. No, she said, and the word warmed. I want you alive and inside reach. I want to sleep without hearing you scrape your teeth on rage. I want to open my eyes and know you cannot be taken from me by a clever old man with blue eyes or a snake in a robe. The list is long. He let the silence after that sit. He did not dress it with cleverness. He did not give her a promise. He did not deny anything either. Show me Malfoy Manor once more, he said instead. The wards at the southern angle. The ones that taste of old bone. If I see them enough, I will know how to walk past without waking them. She laughed very softly. Hungry, she said. Good. Look. She turned her head without turning her body. The view slid. Harry saw the southern angle of the manor, a line where two walls met like two mouths pressed together. He saw runes cut shallow and painted over so that only the idea of them remained. He saw pale stones that had soaked too much magic and gone sick with it. He memorized the pattern. He set it to the count of his breath. He set it to the names of things in his room in case he forgot one he could use the other as a hook. Night took the windows. He did not light a lamp. He sat and listened. When the first pull of the proximity requirement hit, it was not a claw. It was a strum. A low note that made every bone remember it was a part of something else. He cursed softly under his breath and stood. Not yet, he told her. Soon, she said. If you ignore it, it will ignore your spine and take your lungs. He crossed to the door and set his hand on the handle and did not turn it. He stood there and let the pull argue with his will. He held the handle until his hand stopped shaking. Then he took it off the handle and stepped back. The pull did not go. He sat and waited like a dog at a door. He slept at last in the chair with his wand across his knees. He dreamed he was walking through a house where the portraits watched him and did not shout. A girl with black hair sat in a chair that wanted to be a throne and lifted her chin the way someone does when the room will not give her air unless she takes it herself. He walked past her without looking, and yet he saw everything. At the end of the corridor a door stood open on a night field. The field smelled of wet grass and old stone. He stepped through. He woke to the sound of the house shifting as if it had leaned to listen. The link tightened at the same time. The two sounds met like a pair of flints. He whispered into the dark. What now? Bellatrix's voice came back calm and thin as a drawn wire. Your teacher is on the move, she said. He thinks he walks alone. He does not. He drags a story behind him with a name sewn to it. Let it drag. Watch where it snags. Harry stood, took his wand, and went to wake the one person he trusted to watch a story without pulling at it too soon. Hermione opened her eyes on the first knock. He did not have to explain much. She sat up, already reaching for quill and coat. She corrected his smallest slip without thinking. He had said less people. She said fewer, then flushed and said sorry, old habit. He nodded. He did not mind being corrected. It meant she was still herself. Ron woke on the second knock and swore when he banged his knee on the trunk. He was angry already on Harry's behalf without knowing why yet. That too was a kind of love. The three of them stood in the hall, hair a mess, coats half on, wands in hands. Harry looked at their faces and at the places where the house had cracked and been mended and at the line his life had just drawn for him. He would follow the dragged story. He would not pull until he saw exactly who held the far end of the thread. He felt Bellatrix wait on the other side of the city, a smile too thin to see in a mirror. Be quick, she whispered. Be quiet, he answered. The house sighed and let them pass. Night pressed against the windows of Grimmauld Place like damp cloth. Harry stood in the corridor with his hand on the banister and felt it start in his ribs before it reached his head. The pull did not scratch this time. It throbbed. A slow demand that made his bones remember another set of footsteps. Come, said Bellatrix, not loud, not soft, as if the word were a gloved hand closing around his wrist. The room behind her smelled of cold stone and perfume that had dried a long time ago. Not here, he thought. Tell me where. She let the image slide along the link. A black tunnel mouth with a metal gate pulled back and chained to a post. The floor shone like old oil. A sign with a map that time had grayed until the names were only ghosts. A place where no one wanted to listen. Beneath the city, past the last train, he pushed a breath out through his teeth. A disused station. Fine. Footsteps came up from the kitchen. Hermione turned the corner and stopped when she saw him in the dark. She had a cardigan over her nightdress and a book under her arm, and the careful look she put on when she did not want to panic him. You have your shoes on, she said. He looked down. He did. I need air, he said. Grammar, she said by reflex, and then flushed. Need some air. Then, quiet, do you want company? Thank you, no, he said. If I am not back before dawn, send a message to Dumbledore. Tell him I went for a walk and will be in the library at breakfast. A walk is not precise, she said. Give me a street. Cannot, he said. If I could, I would. I swear. Her mouth thinned. She weighed him. She had watched him lie before and had learned the way his eyes went small when he did. He kept them steady now. That was a different kind of lie. It hurt in a slower way. Ron came out behind her. Hair wild, socks mismatched, wand already in his hand. Where are you off to at this hour, mate? Out, Harry said. Ron looked him over. The tremor in the fingers. The set of the jaw. He grunted. Right. I will get my coat. No, Harry said. Please, cover for me. If anyone asks, I could not sleep and I went to walk the square. Say I took a cloak. Say I am not stupid. Some of that will be true. Hermione stepped close enough to touch his sleeve and did not touch it. Come back, she said. That is not a suggestion. That is instruction. He nodded. He passed them. He went down the steps. The house watched with its old eyes. He took a cloak from the peg and wrapped it tight. He shut the door behind him. The night outside hit him in the throat like a small stone. He breathed anyway and began to walk. The city was dark, then not, then dark again in patches where lamps worked and lamps failed. The air smelled of wet dust and fried food and old smoke. He kept to the quiet streets and cut through a service lane where bins leaned like tired men. A cat raised its head from under a crate and then set it down again because it was not an enemy he knew how to fight. Bellatrix did not chatter. She let him follow the pull. Left at a shuttered shop with a bell that would not ring. Right at a wall where someone had painted a stag many years ago and the paint had faded until only the idea remained. Down a stair that wrapped on itself and caught the damp. He reached the gate. The chain had been cut. The padlock hung like a tongue. He stepped inside and the air went colder. Water dripped somewhere at a slow, even pace. Rats whispered in the dark where the tunnels widened. No charm lamps, he thought. I want to see your eyes in the dark, she said. I want you to see mine. He moved forward and let the black swallow the sound of his steps. He felt the wards before he saw her. They were simple and sharp and would cut the skin from careless magic. The old station did not like spells here. It did not like even the thought of them. He stopped where the tiled wall curved away. A dozen paces ahead, a woman stepped out of the darker dark. She wore black from throat to boots and moved like someone who had crouched in the same shadow for a long time and had not felt tired once. Her hair fell ragged to her shoulders. Her face was bare. No paint to smooth the years. The years did not need smoothing. They had made hard lines that did not ask pity. They were alone on the platform. That was a fact to mark and keep. Alone. No watchers in robes. No order under a cloak. The rats did not count. The water did not count. The air counted because it would tell the story of any spell for a long minute after it struck. She looked at the wand in his hand and smiled as if at a pet that might bite. He did not smile back. Call me mad one more time and I will make you eat your teeth, she said. The words were pleasant. Her voice echoed soft off tile and iron. I never called you that, he said. Everyone does. Pleases them. Pleases me to disagree. He swallowed. The pull ran through him again. It blurred the edge of the world for one breath. He steadied his feet. You feel it more in your chest than your head, she said, and began to walk a slow circle that kept the same distance between them as if there were a thread on the floor. When you breathe too fast, it drags. When you hold your breath, it throws a tantrum. We are not here to talk about my breathing, he said. We are here because you cannot stand the way it gnaws, she said. We are here because I cannot stand it either. She lifted her wand a fraction. The tip did not glow. That would wake the station. He lifted his wand the same fraction. The motion made his shoulder buzz with the memory of sleep lost in a chair. Make one rule now, she said. Only one. I will allow that generosity. Choose. He chose the one that would buy an hour. No killing, he said. Not here. Not tonight. She tilted her head. A long pause. Her eyes cut past him into the dark as if listening for a second mind that would tell her she was being watched. She found none. Her mouth twitched. No killing, she said. For one night. He moved first because he knew he had to know how it would feel when the air split between them. He thought shield and reached not for the soft gold he knew but for the colder well the bond had opened. The shape that rose had a mirrored surface. He almost saw his own eyes in it. He felt her push against it with something thin and cutting. The thin returned to her wrist like a slap. She hissed, then laughed out of surprise. Not joy. Surprise. You are a quick thief, she said. Stop calling me that, he said, and pushed the shield forward the smallest distance. It moved like a new tool in an untrained hand. Enough. He let it settle. He wiped his palm on his cloak to clear the sweat. She drew sound out of the dark the way a singer takes a note from a throat. The sound gathered on the tip of her wand and then split into 3 threads that braided and unbraided without touching each other. He did not know the spell. He did not try to know it the old way. He listened through the link. His mouth tasted iron. His nose filled with the smell of rain on hot stone. 3 threads, 3 cuts, 3 times the price. He answered with a curve that had never been his in school. His wand drew an S in the air. The threads hit the curve and did not pass. They glided along the belly of it and turned back toward her at a strange angle, as if the spell had bounced off a mirror that was not flat. She cut them apart with a flick that looked lazy and was not. They fell into the air and turned to cold. He felt the price strike both of them anyway. His shoulder lit with small lightning. She caught her breath so quietly he would not have heard it without the link. Non-lethal, she said, and her voice had gone low. Non-lethal, he said. She stepped in. He stepped in. Their wands moved. The station woke like a sleeping dog and then lay down again because both of them kept the spells clean and small and aimed at places that would bruise pride without ending breath. Tiles cracked. Air went thin and then thicker again. Sweat rolled from his hairline and went into his collar and made a cold patch at the back of his neck. She did not grunt or curse. She smiled once, sharp and private. When he stole a trick from the way she set her feet and used it against her. He smiled back because the body keeps score and sometimes the score is a nod. A curse of hers scraped his ribs without biting. He let the pain speak in the link so she would know he had felt it but would not fall. She answered by letting a small shock through her own body when he planted a blinding charm low. Not at the eyes but at the knee. She stumbled. He could have taken her then, he knew it, he saw the door open, and he did not move through it. The rule sat between them and stopped him. No killing. For this night. She straightened. The pull in his chest eased a fraction, as if the bond approved of restraint. That made him angry. He let the anger go because it would only make his hands louder. Enough for the test, she said, and lowered her wand. He kept his where it was. His lungs felt too small. He drew one slow breath and sent half of it back through the link to clear the last sparks from her fingers. That was not kindness. It bought a cleaner talk. You almost enjoyed that, she said, and her tone was soft curiosity, and he hated that she had put a name to how his hands had moved. I enjoy being alive, he said. You are not good at lying to yourself, she said. That will either keep you human or get you dead. Time will decide. We need terms, he said. He could hear the drip again. He used it to count. Drip. Speak. Drip. Listen. Proximity. We meet before the day ends. If we do not, the pull will drop us both. She nodded once. Your house is old and loud. It does not like secrets that shake the floorboards. You cannot live there and pretend you do not come to me. He kept his face still. You will not send hunters to the square. She smiled with no warmth. If I do, they will take me as well. The bond does not like me hurt by choice. It punishes that desire like a jealous lover. I learned that last night. The mark on my throat still aches where I tried to force it. He filed that away. Shared pain had a range and a rule set. He had not known about the way it punished a wish. He did now. Tell me the origin, he said. Not the story you want me to believe. The real one. Her eyes flicked toward the tunnel mouth and back. The mask she wore for her master did not come out here. She did not need it with him. Not yet. Old black magic, she said. Before the wand laws. Before the ministry wore robes in an office and printed rules on paper. A covenant for blood and loyalty. Bound with a vow that never dissolves. It was taught to a daughter who would have to endure a husband she did not choose and live anyway. When the vow fails, the covenant finds another anchor. It hunts for the strongest living tether in the family that still draws breath. Takes what it can find. She made a small sound. Found you. You carry black in the form of a house and a name you inherited by mistake. It found me because I never stopped taking orders and I never stopped breathing when I was told to stop. She placed her hand flat on her chest. It wants two anchors. Light and dark. That is how it was written. That is why it felt like a door was already open when it looked for a room. He pictured the family tree in the hall and a line burned off with a curse. He pictured creatures muttering and the way the house had seemed to pull at him that first night. He wanted to argue. The facts did not leave him much to stand on. He said, the whore. He stopped. He tasted blood and bit his tongue harder until the word died. He had almost given the wrong thing a name in front of the wrong person. He swallowed. She watched the swallow. Clever boy, she said. Do not teach me your vocabulary as a party trick. He looked past her shoulder into the black of the tunnel. 2 yellow coins slid along the far platform and blinked out. A fox or a cat, not a wand. The station listened with wet walls. Someone in the order is leaking, he said. You were right about bait. If I tell Dumbledore that I hear talk of a move and I do not stop it, we will see who grabs the story with both hands. We will, she said. I can give you a name to watch. I will not. I want to see who you trust and who looks at you like a problem that can still be managed. The corner of his mouth went up. No, she stepped closer. Not enough to set off the wards. Enough that he could smell soap that did not belong to any house he had been in. The chain on her belt tapped against the buckle of her boot. He kept his eyes on her face. Here is your second term, she said. When I send a thought wrapped in a certain piece of scent, you answer in less than an hour. I will choose something you can find even in a kitchen. Clove. He tasted the word and the spice at once. It sat on the back of his tongue and made the skin under his jaw prickle. He did not like that a kitchen smell had just become a summons. He accepted it because refusal would split both their skulls before dawn. Fine, he said. Her eyes warmed. Do you know that when you say that word you sound like a boy whose jaw hurts from clenching? It makes me want to pry your teeth apart with my fingers to see if you still bite. You have interesting ideas about kindness, he said. I have no ideas about kindness, she said. I have practice with survival. A vibration ran through the tiles. Both of them felt it. The air went taut. The station hummed in a way that did not belong to old electric lines. A small ward in the tunnel throat woke and sniffed. It did not find a Death Eater. It did not find an ore. It found magic in a place that did not like being woken. You upset the room, he said. You did, she said. They moved at the same time. She raised a dampening charm that tasted of iron filings and wet cloth. He pulled his mirrored aegis in tight so the hum would bend around rather than crash through. For a breath the sound rose as if to shout. Then it slid along the edges they set and fell back to the floor like a rug. The lights in the tunnels did not wake. The rats went back to work. The station remembered it was old and tired and set its head down. They both let out breath they would not have named relief. You are getting good at not dying, she said. Praise from you is concerning, he said. It should be, she said. And her mouth softened, then went sharp again. Third term. You do not bring the book girl or the red one to a meeting. The bond can manage 2 minds. It spits at a crowd. I will not test its temper because you want courage scouts. He considered. She was right about the bond and crowds. She was also right that Ron would swing and Hermione would argue and the old tunnel would turn that noise into a mess. He nodded once. Agreed. Her eyes flicked past him again. A new sound came in. Not magic. Rubber on wet stone. Boots that did not know how to move quiet. Two men, one a half pace out of time with the other. Police. Not ministry. They will shine a light and call it in if they see us. He lifted his hand. An old school spell, small and tidy, set a shade across them both like a curtain hung 4 fingers from their faces. Not a cloak. An instruction to the air to forget the space between the wall and the pillar for a count of 200. The men went by with a torch beam that threw a white circle and then drew it back like a fishing line. The circle slid over the tiles where their feet had been and did not notice. One of the men coughed to clear his throat and then did it again because it had not worked the first time. They talked about football without interest. They did not see the wands. They did not see the woman. They did not see the boy. They turned the corner and went along the platform and were gone. Bellastrix looked at him as if he had handed her a small trick she had not bothered to learn when she was young because it did not spill blood. Her face said, useful. He did not bow. Now my term, he said. You will stop when I say stop. The bond makes us both pay when you do the thing you love most. You cast a curse and it steals my breath. I will not watch you peel a mind for joy. I will not carry it when I try to sleep. If you want us both on our feet, you stop when I say. She stared at him. The pupils widened. The dark around them did not. Then she said, very plain, I can agree to that if the stop is for the day and not for the war. I am a weapon that was beaten into shape for a long time by men who liked the sound of bone. I cannot put the iron down and clap politely for tea. For the day, he said, and the words had the shape of a rope tied around a live thing. We will argue about the war when we can stand up longer than an hour. She stepped closer again. This time the pull did not punish it. It eased, as if the bond approved of standing together in one place where the walls could listen to them both. Her voice had no taunt in it when she spoke. If I ask you to run, run, she said. If I ask you to run, run, he said back. Good. We have a truce. Now we need proof. Her wand moved. Not with a curse. A glamour shaped itself on the air between them like a skin hung on a nail. It took the shape of a man with order robes and a face half-shadowed. It mouthed a story. He could not hear the words. He read the lips and the tilt of the head and the way the glamour turned toward an imaginary door every few seconds. He saw fear learned from long work and not from one bad night. He saw a tick in the cheek that came when you hid a lie in a mouth that had sworn oaths. A spy, he said. Not a real face, she said. I am not a fool. Names are stronger than glamour. You will learn the habit of looking at hands and backs and habits. When you see this one reach for Dumbledore at the wrong time, you will feel it in your jaw. He watched the glamour turn again. The habit was there. Look at the door as if the door will save you. The habit had a rhythm. He pressed it into memory and set it beside the taste of clove. Enough, he said. She let the glamour fall. It dissipated with a smell like frost. Before you go back to your kitchen, she said, we test the other rule. The one the bond wrote on us without asking. Shared pain. If I lift my wand with intent to break a mind, you break. If you lift yours with intent to rescue a stranger that the bond calls enemy, I lose my sight. We need to know the floor and ceiling. We do it small or we will die learning it big. He nodded once. Small. A sting only. We count together. 3, 2, 1. They raised their wands at the same time. He felt her choose a low cut that would mark skin and heal clean. He chose a pin charm that would stick a sleeve to a wall for a count of 5. They let the spells go. Both spells hit air 2 arm lengths away. Touched. Then folded back and brushed their own wrists with the least possible spite. Pain arrived as a tight loop that ran from tendon to shoulder and then back down. His breath caught. He made himself breathe through it. He felt her do the same. The loop eased. It did not bring a shout. It brought a lesson. Ceiling, he said. Low, she said. That was nothing. That means we will function in a skirmish if we keep our pride on a short leash. He almost smiled. Pride on a short leash. Look at us. Sensible. Do not call me sensible, she said. It makes my teeth itch. A different feeling slid along the link. A taste of clove, dry and sharp. It was not a memory. It was a doorbell. He lifted his head. Now, she said. We test the call. I press. You answer. We see if the world lets us move without tripping over something loud. He did not say yes. He reached into the pull and let it take his feet and tug them 3 steps forward and 3 steps back. The floor hummed. He stepped in a small circle that felt like a ritual already written. He stopped. The air steadied. The bond eased off a notch. Good, she said. When I send the spice, you move. You are not my general, he said. I am your anchor, she said. You are mine. The bond does not care what we would prefer to call it. Boots again. Not police. Softer. He knew the sound from school corridors at night when a teacher you did not want to meet walked a patrol. The tone had that same warning hush. Ors. She looked at him and did not have to say run. He turned toward the pillar that had the least shadow and stepped into the darkest part of the tile seam. He felt her fingers on the link as if they had touched in truth. He pulled the mirrored aegis flat against both of them and let her slip a thread of silence through the heart of it. The 2 spells accepted the braid for one breath. The world stuttered. They were not invisible. They were unnoticed. There is a difference, and it saves more lives. 3 Aurors walked past with steady steps and eyes that had already decided what they would and would not see. One of them frowned at a crack in the wall as if the crack had insulted him. The frown moved on. They were gone. Harry felt his knees. They worked. Good. You are going to get better at this very fast, she said. So are you, he said. He put his wand down by inches. The station settled. You will go first, she said. Your house minds the door. If I walk under its nose, it will try to scream. He nodded. I will go. Wait 5 minutes after I am out of the gate. Then take the stairs that have the cracked 3rd step. It squeaks for everyone but will not squeak for you if you put your foot on the far edge. Go left at the top. Keep to the wall for 10 paces. No one there will look down. You have mapped this too many times, she said. I have had a lot of nights, he said. He turned. He walked to the gate. He did not look back because looking back would turn the truce into a picture. Pictures do not travel well. He stepped out into the sewage breath of the city and tasted metal again. He did not know if it was memory or coin in his mouth. Clove brushed the back of his tongue. He stopped breathing for 1 count on pure instinct. She let the taste go away. He breathed again. He crossed the square with his hood up. He passed a man who was trying to light a cigarette with a dead lighter. He did not stop. He turned the corner, walked on, and did not look up at the empty windows where a light might have been. Grimmauld Place opened for him with the sulk of an old door that did not like any visitor, even a resident. He shut it quiet. The house felt him come in and made space. He went straight to the kitchen. Hermione had not gone back to bed. She sat at the table with a blanket over her knees and a pot of tea beside her and an index card of notes that she pretended were for something else. Ron had a chessboard set up and had fallen asleep with his hand on a knight. He snored like someone who had learned to snore softly because he had grown up in a house where other people slept near. Harry felt a lump rise in his throat and pushed it down with his thumb the way you push a knot out of a rope. Hermione looked at his face. She did not ask. She moved the pot toward him. He poured. His hand shook once and then steadied. She watched and did nothing that would make him feel like a glass. You are back, she said. Good. That is a fact we can work with. He sat. He drank. The tea was strong and tan and tasted like a reason to keep a clock in a room. We need to watch one person when the move happens, he said. Not a guess. A person who looks at doors too often. Hermione listened. Her pencil moved. She did not write a name. She wrote the habit. She wrote the time of day and the likely route and the old rule about not shouting a plan in a corridor because walls have better memories than people. She corrected fewer to fewer without thinking when he said less again. He did not mind. It made him breathe. Ron stirred and snorted and woke and sat up and knocked a pawn across the table with his sleeve and swore softly for the sake of the sleeping house. He looked at Harry with eyes still heavy with dreams and said, You look like a bloke who met a brick wall and told it a joke. Harry said, I am going to borrow your cloak because mine smells like wet brick. Ron shrugged. Take it. Do not run into Kingsley or Tonks in the hall. They bite when you wake them. Hermione added, they do not, but they will ask for details, which is worse for you at this moment. Harry stood. The room had warmed. He left the cloak on the back of the chair. He walked to the door and stopped and turned. Thank you, he said. Hermione lifted one shoulder. Talk later, she said. Sleep first. He went up the stairs. The house creaked and did not scold. He opened his door and shut it and leaned against it for a count of 10. The pull sat in his chest like a cat on a book you need. Heavy. Watching. Purring when you move a hand in a way that pleases it. Clove brushed his tongue. Once. Soft. I am safe, she said across the link. The crack step liked my foot. Do not dream of me with a knife tonight. I will not bring one to bed. He sat in the chair and set his wand on his knees and let his head fall back. Sleep came slow. Before it took him, he sent a last thought like a folded note along a wire. No killing, he said. For the day. For the day, she said. Then the link softened into a low hum that matched the old house breathing, and the city above stopped trying to remember what it had seen under the ground. Clove rose at the back of his tongue in the blue hour before dawn. Harry sat up in the chair with his wand on his knees and the old house breathing around him. The taste was small and sharp. He stood, pulled on his shoes, and opened the door without letting it creak. Hermione waited in the corridor with a cardigan over her nightdress and a notebook in one hand. She kept her voice low. Less time out there, she said. Fewer, he said, and tried to smile. I will be back before breakfast. Come back, she said. That is the rule. He nodded and went down the stairs. The front door sulked and then let him through. Night outside smelled of wet brick and smoke. He kept to the shadow side of the street, turned twice, and slid into a service lane. From there he moved along the line of shuttered shops until he reached a narrow mews with a black door that wore a faded crest. The door knew his blood. It hummed once and unlocked. Inside, the air was colder than the street. A thin runner sat crooked on a wooden floor. Dust hung in the still light from a cracked skylight. A stone mantel watched the room. 2 chairs faced each other with a low table between them. No pictures. No mirrors. Harry set his wand on the table and sat with his back to the wall. Bellastrix came out of the doorway on the left with the same smooth pace as always. Black clothes. Bare face. A faint mark along her throat where the bond had punished a choice. She took the other chair and did not lean back. Who else knows this house, Harry said. Family used it to hide what did not fit in the main rooms, she said. That was a long time ago. No one has breathed here for years. He looked at the door to the left, the cracked skylight above, the mantel, the crooked runner. He took a slow breath and felt the pull settle as if the room had nodded. He did not ease his grip on the wand. We make one aim for this meeting, he said. We keep to it. No games. No bait. Good, she said. And then, tell me the truth about the Longbottoms. Her face did not change. The link did. A small weight shifted on his ribs. She did not pretend to misunderstand. You want me to say I was forced, she said. You want me to say I woke later and felt sorry. I want you to stop turning away from the point, he said. He kept his voice even. I want what happened, and I want why you wanted it. She watched him for a long breath. Then she set her wand on the table beside his and lifted both hands, empty, as if to show she could choose a memory without metal in her fist. You asked for the truth, she said. The truth is plain. I was not forced. I did not feel sorry. I wanted to prove that my name still meant something sharp. I wanted my lord to look at me and think that I was the clean knife on his table. The room listened. Harry felt his jaw ache. He matched his breath to the slow rise and fall of a curl of dust in the light. Show me, he said. She touched the link with the care of a surgeon. The room slid from around him without moving. Cold stone took its place. A cellar with damp steps. Ropes like dead snakes on the floor. He smelled wet wool and fear. For wands, for voices. Her husband. Her brother-in-law. A man with a wide mouth who liked to laugh. Her own voice bright and thin. A man lay on the floor, arms twisted, eyes wild. A woman stood because she could not fall. The woman had a jaw set in the same way Hermione set hers when she decided to hold the line. The woman did not scream at first. The man screamed at once and then hoarse and then not at all and then again. Words came hard in Harry's throat. He hated the urge to say stop. He held it down. He watched. He heard the sounds. He did not flinch when the spell name cracked the air. He felt the bond press a warning into his shoulder. Shared pain. He tasted metal and breathed through it until the cellar lost a shade of color and came back. Bellastrix stood over the woman with the posture of an heir who has finally been given a task that fits her mouth. Her eyes were bright with approval she had borrowed because she had never been fed it at home. The four voices pushed and pulled. The man on the floor begged and then lost the words. The woman said a name and kept saying it. The name was a son who was not there. The moment went on. It ended. Not with a final stroke. It ended because nothing more could be taken from a mind that had been broken open. The cellar slid away. The thin runner and the cracked skylight returned. Harry realized he had stood without noticing. His chair scraped. His chest rose and fell too fast. He made it slow. Bellatrix sat very still with her palms on her thighs. She met his eyes. I did that, she said. I chose it. I was sober. I wanted the praise. Azkaban came after, not before. People like to place madness at the start of every hard story. It comforts them to believe that cruelty comes from a sickness rather than from a choice. I made a choice. Harry closed his eyes for one count and opened them again. He spoke when he knew the words would come out clean. Why, he said, because in my house the only thing that made the room go quiet was skill with a wand, she said. She turned her head the smallest bit toward the mantel and then back. Because my mother taught me that love is a leash and respect is a knife and only the second will keep a seat. Because a man with a dead mouth taught me that my talent was valuable and then paid me only with the feeling of being seen. Because I was good at pain and that is a currency in a war where people change sides when their doors break at night. The room was very quiet. A drip under the sink in the back room counted time. Harry found the rhythm and matched it until the shake left his hands. You said Azkaban came after, he said. Tell me how it changed you. She looked at the cracked skylight and then at him. Her voice was soft and matter-of-fact. Dementors do not steal all at once, she said. They teach you to do the work for them. Your memories become like wet paper. You have to peel them to see the picture. I laughed so the guards did not think to test how thin the paper had become. Laughter is a cover. Kept the last corner of me dry. When I got out, my laughter was the loudest thing left. You have heard it. It is not joy. It is a habit that never learned to stop. The pull in Harry's chest unfurled, slow and heavy. He let it move. He waited. When I feel you, she said. The laughter quiets. That does not make me kind. It makes me clear. He nodded once. He looked at the wands on the table. He set the bone of his forearm against the wood and let the cold teach his skin where he was. You wanted the praise, he said. You wanted the look from him. I will not pretend that anything justifies what you did. I will not call it a mistake. I will not say I forgive you. I also will not pretend I do not see the path that led you to take that first step. She breathed in through her nose and let the air go out in a slow line. The smallest fraction of tension left her neck. Good, she said. I did not bring you here for pardon. I brought you to cut the lie out from between us. If you think anything in this house was a curse placed on me by anyone but myself, you will make bad choices when the room goes loud. Bad choices get us killed. Harry rubbed his thumb along the old nick on his wand. He remembered Neville in the hospital ward. He remembered the glass cube with the prophecy crashing. He remembered a veil that moved in a wind that was not in the room. He looked up. He made the aim narrow again. You will not do that again, he said. Not because I want you to be decent. Because the bond will take both of us down if you choose it. If you reach for that curse, I reach for the stop. You stop. Her jaw worked once. She hated orders. He watched her hate it. Then he watched her weigh it against the pull that sat between them like a third chair. For the day, she said. For the day, he said. We will have this talk again. We will keep having it until the war ends or we do. She gave a small tired smile that showed teeth. There is the boy who never quits, she said. I prefer you when you are tired. Your sermons are shorter. He breathed once through the ghost of a laugh. He lifted his hand and the link bent to his will enough to set a thin shape on the table. It was not a glamour. It was the idea of a door that had stood in the Longbottom house. Plain wood. A dent from a boot. A handprint at child height pressed long ago. He did not look at her while it sat there. He let it fade. She did not thank him. She did not joke. She sat with it until it was gone. The room needed new anchors. Harry said them inside his head. Chair. Table. Mantel. Door on the left. Skylight cracked. He looked at the mark on her throat again. The bond punished you when you tried to tell him my place, he said. What else does it punish? It dislikes deliberate self-harm for either of us, she said. Punishes desire that rushes into pain. It punishes the wish to hand the other over. It does not punish the plan to kill others. It only demands that we pay together if we do it. You felt the loop yesterday when we tested. That was nothing. The ceiling is high. Higher than either of us should ever pay. He thought of the cellar. He set his teeth. He held his voice calm. We are going to move, he said. The ritual that bound us wants proximity. We cannot keep using tunnels and mews. That is luck. Luck runs out. We need a place that does not belong to your master and does not belong to the order. She looked past him as if searching a map on the back of the air. There is a coach house near Chancery Lane with wards that answer to old black names and no one else, she said. It is small and plain. The roof leaks in one corner when rain comes in from the east. There is a cellar that was used for tool work. No portraits. No house elves. The door sits behind a gate that looks locked even when it is not. I can clean it in an hour. I can make it look like a room that hates visitors. Harry listened. The description was clear and useful. He nodded. We take turns entering by different streets, he said. We carry nothing that will sing to an order ward or a Death Eater ward. We set a rule about who leaves first. We practice the exit until we can do it cold. We bring water. We keep a ledger of supplies in our heads. No written lists. We talk before we sleep. We sleep in shifts until we are sure the wards hold. She watched him count the steps out loud. The corner of her mouth moved. There is your talent, she said. Not the bright light you like to throw when you fight. The grind. The long plan. The willingness to sit in a plain room and say the names of chairs. He ignored the flare of heat in his cheeks. He kept to the plan. We give the place a name, he said. Not the real one. A word we can use in the link that does not pull at the wrong memory. Call it the coach house, she said. Plain words for a plain room. If I try to be clever, I end up with a poem, and no one wants that. He let himself breathe. The pull softened. His body remembered hunger in a sudden rush. He swallowed it back down. We are not done, he said. I want the years before. The house that taught you the knife lesson. You showed me a slice. I need the whole picture. If I do not have it, my mind will sew the missing places with lies. Her gaze lowered for the first time that morning. When she lifted it again, her voice had a cool clarity. You do not get the whole picture tonight, she said. You get 2 rooms and 1 corridor and then we stop. This is not charity. It is a schedule. If I open all the doors at once, the house will fall in. Then what use is any of this plan? He nodded. Start with 1 room. She did. The air cooled again and brought the smell of polish and still flowers. A drawing room in the Black House when it still played host to callers who spoke in quiet voices that hurt more than shouts. A girl sat with a book she did not read. A woman poured tea as if it were a weapon. A man spoke with a mouth that moved less than it should. A cousin laughed from a portrait and then stopped because the woman glared at the frame, and the painted boy learned that fear travels through paint. The memory changed rooms. Practice chamber. Lines chalked on stone. A tutor with a back like a board and a face that did not smile. The wand drills went on until the hand shook. The girl learned to drink with her left hand so the right would not spill when called for a demonstration. The tutor said well done only when a spell marked a target with a scorch in the exact center. The tutor said again far more often than well done. The corridor came last. It smelled of wax and old wool. The girl stood very straight while her mother pinned a brooch to her dress with a little too much force. The metal pricked skin. The girl did not move. She learned the lesson of being still and was praised for it. Stillness traveled into other places and became a habit that looked like control. The light in the Muse house returned. The thin runner on the floor, the cracked skylight, the mantle, the table, the two wands. Harry found he was standing again. He sat. He set his fingers on the table because he needed a surface that did not move. "Thank you," he said. He did not try to wrap the words in anything else. Bellastrix rolled her shoulders once, as if she had put down a weight and would pick it back up after a drink of water. "Now we stop," she said. "Not because you want more, but because the bond is starting to heat. You feel it." He did. A prickle under the skin at the base of his skull. The start of a headache with teeth. He blinked slow and it eased. "We have one more thing to set," he said. "When I say stop, you stop. When you say stop, I stop. There is no second shout. We break the link the first time." She gave him a look that said he had asked her to hand him a small control that she would rather break. Then she nodded. Agreed. First stop ends the game. No second shout. The house needed a new anchor again. He named the left door and the skylight and the mantle. He listened for the drip under the back sink. Still there. He drank it like water. The pull snapped without warning. Pain hit them both as if a hand had turned a key. Bellatrix flinched. Harry grabbed the edge of the table. He tasted iron. "What is that?" he said. "A raid," she said through her teeth. "Not mine. Another crew. They are showing off. One of them overreached. He is pulling on a curse he cannot carry. It is spilling. The bond is angry because the spill is near me." "Stop him," Harry said. She closed her eyes for a count and sent a sharp thought along a line that did not touch faces. The pain eased. Somewhere a man swore. Somewhere a woman told him to keep up or go home. The spill closed. The bond cooled. "You said stop," she said. "I obeyed." He let out a breath he had not meant to hold. The small line in the side of his neck stopped singing. "The day is long," she said. "Take what you wanted and go back to your house before your friends cut the door off its hinges. Bring food to the coach house when you come tonight. Bread, cheese, water, a small kettle. Nothing that smells like the Weasley kitchen. Spices that are not clove. I will set wards before sundown. We will make a bed from blankets and not speak of it." He stood. He took his wand. He placed his other hand flat on the table for one more hard second to tell his skin he was still in this room and not in the cellar. "One more thing," he said. "If you feel the urge to test the wall in your throat today, do not. I am not ready to carry the price and neither are you." "I am not foolish," she said. "You are many things," he said. "Foolish is not on the first page." She looked at him and for once did not turn the line into a joke. She dipped her head the smallest amount, then rose. The chair legs scraped the floor. The runner shifted under her boot. She walked to the left door. She paused there and looked back. "There is a boy at the hospital who visits the Longbottoms and brings them sweets and sits with them while his gran argues with a nurse," she said. "If you feel a need to go and be noble today, do not go there. It will make you bleed, and I do not need to carry that pain at noon." He met her eyes and nodded. He had thought of that exact corridor and that exact boy. He had planned to go. He let the plan go. The bond eased a notch more at the decision. She left by the side passage. The room caught its breath. Harry stood alone with the mantle and the thin runner and the cracked skylight. He listened for feet on the stairs. He heard none. The house settled into silence like a held note laid down. He stepped out into the mews and shut the door. The street had not changed. Cart rattled by, one wheel complaining. He pulled the cloak tight and walked away. By the time he reached Grimmauld Place, the sky had gone from blue to a thin gray. He opened the door and found Hermione at the kitchen table with a kettle and 2 mugs set out. Ron was asleep on the bench with his head on his arms. The smell of toast made his stomach learn that it was hungry. Hermione looked up at him and did not search his face for answers. She pushed a mug toward him and spoke in the tone she used when a plan needed a list. "What do we need?" she said. "Bread," he said. "Cheese, water, kettle, blankets, matches. Nothing with a label from this kitchen." She wrote the list. She corrected his fewer without looking up when he stumbled on it. He did not mind. The rhythm steadied him. "Dumbledore asked for you," she said. "After breakfast. He wants to go over something about patrols. I told him you were sleeping. which was a lie. You can be angry later. For now, drink this. He drank. The tea was strong. He felt his hands stop shaking. Ron lifted his head, blinked at the light, and groaned. You look worse than me, he said. That is an achievement. Harry ate toast. He let the warmth make a space in his chest between the pull and the next task. Dumbledore will ask why you are tired, Hermione said. You will not tell him the truth. You will tell him you had a clemency with Snape until late and then read until your eyes crossed. That is close enough to plausible. Harry nodded. He could do that. He set the cup down and looked at both of them. He chose one thing he could give them that was not a lie. I have a plan, he said. It is not a good plan. It is the plan that we can carry. Trust me to carry it. Ron rubbed his face and then grinned the tired grin that still tried to be a shield. Mate, he said, we have been trusting you since first year when you decided to chase a mountain troll with a stick. Hermione rolled her eyes and reached over to fix the collar of Harry's shirt, where it had turned the wrong way. Speak like a person when you talk to Dumbledore, she said. Do not make speeches. Short answers. Facts. Then leave. He nodded and stood. The house creaked in a familiar way that told him someone had stepped into the upstairs corridor. The day had begun. He would move the pieces he could move and not touch the ones that would set off bells. He carried the taste of dust and cold stone and a slow drip with him back to the library, and the sound of a woman saying a son's name, and the plain, tired truth of the monster across the table who had learned stillness and then learned how to break it. The pull rested low and heavy. It waited. It did not need to shout right now. At sundown he would carry bread and water and a small kettle to a coach house that hated visitors. He would set blankets on a floor and test a door 3 times and then sleep in turns with a wand across his knees. He would ask for more rooms from a past that had built a weapon out of a girl, and he would hold the stop ready with the same hand that reached for her wrist when the bond ran hot. For the day, he said inside his head. For the day, she answered, and the link hummed like a wire that had finally been pulled straight. Rain starts in a thin line along the eaves when Harry reaches the coach house. He stands in the narrow passage with a bag over his shoulder and a second in his hand. The gate looks locked even when it is not. The trick is the pressure point on the 3rd bar from the left. He presses, waits, steps through. The yard is brick and weeds. The door knows black blood and grudges. It hums, then gives. Inside, the room smells of dust and cold iron. No portraits. No eyes on the walls. One window high up like a lid half open. A workbench. Hooks with nothing on them. A trapdoor ring in the corner with old paint flaked around it. The roof leaks at the far end where the rain finds a nail hole and makes a steady tap. Clove brushes his tongue, small and exact. Back room, Bellatrix says along the link. He sets the bags down and goes past the workbench. The back room is square, with a narrow bricks and lime hearth and a sink fed by a stubborn pipe. Bellatrix stands with her sleeves pushed to the elbow, wand bare, hair tied back with no care for neat. Black clothes, bare face, attention like a blade put on a table tip first. You brought the bread, she says. Bread, cheese, water, kettle, matches. He taps the bag, then lifts each thing and puts it on the bench. His hands move like he's ticking off steps. Calms the pull a notch. Good, she says. We start with the floor. He looks down. Chalk marks circle the room, faint and careful. One ring set into the boards, old, not hers, scored with sigils that match the house crest. She has added new lines around it, thin and neat. Wards, he says. Teeth, she says. The kind that do not bite us. Stand there. No there. Close your eyes. Feel for the wrong edge. He closes his eyes. Breath in, count, breath out. The pull hums. The room talks in quiet ways. The leak tapping, the pipe settling, the scratch of a rat that does not risk the open. Magic sits under his feet like water in a bowl. He reaches with the sense the bond has carved raw and finds the cold seam where her new lines meet the old ring. Wrong edge. He points. She nods. You listen well. That will keep us breathing when someone clever comes knocking. Someone clever already is, he says. Order watches the squares. Your people watch the alleys. Ours, she says. If words hurt you, use different ones in your head. It will not change the fact that both sides will kill us when it suits their plan. He swallows and keeps it steady. Show me the exits. She leads him through the small front to a side door that opens on a lane. The lane has a drain with a loose grate. The grate hides a ladder down to a short service run no one uses, because it goes crooked and low. He crouches, checks it, nods. They climb back up. We name the parts, he says, and they do. Front, side, ladder, trapdoor, bench, sink, hearth, leak. Words set the room. Words make a plan sit still. She points to a tin on the shelf. Inside, 2 small glass vials. Pale yellow, thick. Scent spells. Clove is the call, she says. Pepper is danger now. If you taste it you move without asking why. Do not be brave. Do not be noble. Move. He nods. Good. He adds 2 spoons, a knife, a tin of tea. She watches with a faint curl to her mouth, like a cat deciding the new chair is acceptable. We drill the exits, he says. 3 times now. 3 times after dark. Then we eat. They do it. Front to lane, lane to street, street back through the gate by a different path. Side door to ladder, ladder to service run to the far manhole and up, then loop back. Trapdoor down to the small cellar, up, reset, check the ring again. By the 3rd run their feet stop making mistakes. The pull loosens like a knot picked open by repetition. They eat standing up. Bread torn, cheese cut rough on the bench. Water from the jug that tastes of old pipe until he charms the metal taste away. The kettle goes on the hearth. The leak taps. The room warms enough to take the edge off their hands. He stacks blankets in the back on the boards. He does not call it a bed. She does not either. They pile 2 thin cushions at opposite ends and fold a spare blanket in the middle like a truce line. Wands within reach. Boots near the door. Tea in mugs that do not match because nothing matches. Now the lesson, she says. He looks up. You teach. I learn. Terms? Her smile is short. You listen. You do not try to translate everything into the light you like. There are spells that do not care if you mean well. They bite the hand that doubts them. We start with restraint. Non-lethal. Your rule. And dangerous. He nods. Good. Show me. She steps to the circle and draws a mark in the air with her wand. No words. The mark holds like ink on glass. She makes a second mark, crossing the first. The air between the marks thickens and turns to a net you cannot see unless you know where to look. Shadowbind, she says. Catches movement, not flesh. If you move too fast, it wraps. If you breathe slow, it lets you pass. It is old house magic, meant for children who run in rooms with knives. It works better in places that remember. He steps forward until the hair on his arms lifts. The net waits. He keeps his breath slow, shifts his weight, tries a small step. The net slides, he passes. He takes a second step faster. The air grabs his wrist in a cold loop that is not there. He stops. The loop eases. He pulls back, breathing slow until it lets him go. He grins despite the pull. That's useful. Yes, she says. Now use it. He forms the mark awkwardly. Then again, smoother. The net answers. She moves through it as if she and the air have talked for years. He tries to catch her with a sudden lunge. The bond flashes a warning. He feels her ankle catch for a blink and then free. Good, she says. Again, 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 until your hand draws it without thinking. He repeats until his fingers ache and his shoulders thrum. Sweat at his hairline. Breath low. The net grows steady. She nods once. Now a cut, she says. Not for flesh. For wands. This one is precise. You will not use it wild. If you do, I will put you on the floor and sit on your chest until you stop. I hear you, he says. She shows him the movement. A short twist at the wrist. A tiny drop at the end. No word. The aim is the invisible seam where grip and wood meet. He tries on a broom handle first, then the old rod she pulls from under the bench. He misses twice, then catches the seam, and the rod jumps in his hand and turns to dead wood. It will still be a stick. It will not be a wand for an hour. He feels the price in the link. A bright sting at the base of his thumb. She winces at the same cut. Shared, he says, and they both breathe through it until it fades. They move to drills. Slow at first, then faster. She barks small corrections. Again. Lower elbow. You're thinking before you move. Stop it. Trust it. Again. Feet under you, not behind. You telegraph with your shoulders. Stop that. I can read you like a clock when you do it. Again. He sweats into his shirt. He gets sloppy once. The cut snaps too close to her skin. Pain hits them both, sharp and hot. He swallows a curse and drops his wand point at once. Stop, he says. She stops without a second beat, as they agreed. Breath loud. Eyes searching his face for whether he will pretend it did not happen. He doesn't. My fault, he says. I pushed past the line. We pause. We pause, she says, and pours water into 2 mugs. They drink. The sting eases. He sets the mug down. You said the bond punishes desire that rushes toward pain. Do you feel it right now? A thread of it, she says. Not loud. It is grumpy, not wrathful. It wanted a bruise and did not get one. She flicks him a glance. So did I. He does not look away. I do not want you to enjoy it when I bleed. Then do not bleed, she says, flat, and the corner of her mouth twitches because she knows how that sounds and she likes the honesty of it. They go again. By the time they stop, his forearms are jelly. The leak is steady. The room has warmed. Steam fogs the high window. He pulls off his cloak and drapes it on a peg. You're shaking, she says. I'm alive, he says. She steps closer and puts 2 fingers under his jaw. Not a choke. A check. The pulse under his skin tells both of them what they already feel in the link. He is burning through himself to keep up. She lowers her hand. Food. Then talk. Then sleep in shifts. He sets the tea. She cuts more bread. He catches her eye when she passes him the knife. She rolls her eyes and passes the blade grip first, as if to say, I am not an idiot. He smiles small. You never do that by accident. No, she says. The people who raised me did not forget to make that habit. They eat on their feet again, then sit on the blankets. The kettle ticks as it cools. He looks at the ring in the boards. The old sigils catch the light from the hearth the way old scars catch sun. Black family magic, he says. Older than Voldemort. Older than the Ministry. Did they make the covenant here? Not here, she says. Somewhere like here. A room where the walls remember a vow without a clerk to stamp it. The ring is a cousin to the thing that bit us. He reaches out and touches the edge of the ring with the back of his fingers. The bond hums an answer. Not loud, but like finding a family name in a book by accident. He pulls his hand back. He looks at her. Do you think we can break it? He says. No, she says. Do you? He thinks. The sensible answer is no. The hopeful answer is yes. The clever answer is yes, but at a price that turns you into someone you do not want to be. He says, not now. Good, she says. Hope makes people do stupid things when they are tired. They talk. Not plans this time. Beliefs. It starts casual and turns into something pointed. Why him, he says. Why give your loyalty to a man who never gave you his? Because he gave me a task and a place at his side and never apologized for wanting power, she says. Because he did not pretend to be kind and then use me anyway. Kindness was never on the table. I respect clean offers. He looks at his hands. Dumbledore, he says. She watches his mouth form the name like a wound. You want him to be better than he is because it keeps you steady. That is a kind of faith. It breaks loud when it breaks. I do not enjoy watching you get hurt, Harry, but I do not think he will stop choosing the war over you when it suits him. He sits with it. It is not new. It is new because she said it plain. I still want to save people, he says. I do not want to be the boy who chose one person and let the world burn because she told him to. She leans in and taps his chest once with a finger. Choose then, she says. I do not beg. I do not threaten. I tell you the truth I have. The bond will push you, pushes me, but we are not puppets. Decide who you are. Then we will fight as that person, not as an apology. He breathes slow. The pull eases under her honesty. It does that, sometimes calms when a line gets drawn clean. He says, you first, then. Decide who you are. She smiles without softness. I am the woman who defied her master and will do it again. I am the woman who wants to win and wants you alive. I am not good. I am not trying to be. I am yours because the magic says so and because I prefer you to the alternatives. I will cut the world if it tries to take you. That is who I am. He nods once. Somewhere inside, something tight stops, pretending it didn't exist. He meets her eyes and answers. I am the boy who tried to save everyone and failed. I am the man who will not fail you. I will still try to save people when we can. If I have to choose between you and them in a room with fire in it, I will choose you. I hate that. I accept it. The link goes quiet, then warm. Consent, but dark. She shifts closer, slow. No tricks. She lifts a hand and stops an inch from his cheek. He does not move. She waits. He nods. Her fingers touch his face. Light. He leans into it, just enough. His pulse counts. So does hers. The bond does not punish this desire. Settles like a cat in a sun patch. She kisses him. Not a stolen thing. Not a raid. Promise with teeth kept sheathed. His hand goes to her shoulder and feels the heat there from training. She tastes of tea and the clove she used to call him earlier. He keeps it gentle because that is what he can carry without breaking their rules. When they part, both of them breathe like they just finished a run. She huffs a laugh. If you do that and then go all noble, I will bite you. I am not planning to go anywhere, he says. Good, she says. Sleep now. You take first watch. The clove tastes wrong or pepper hits your throat. Wake me. He nods. She pulls her blanket over her shoulder, rolls on her side, and is asleep 3 breaths later like a soldier who has learned to snatch rest when it shows up. He takes the watch at the door with his back to the frame. The coach house settles. The leak taps. The rain slows. He checks his watch and the wards. On the 2nd hour, the pipe ticks in the wrong rhythm. He stands. The bond lifts its head. He tastes pepper, faint. Get up, he says without raising his voice. Bellastrix is on her feet with a wand in her hand in the time it takes his lungs to turn a breath. She listens. He listens. Footsteps in the lane. One set light, one heavy, one that drags and then tries not to. Ors, she says. We're thieves, he says. Ors do not steal, she says. They requisition. Words are tidy. The result is the same. She gestures. Ladder. They move. Wands down. Silence charm thin as a thread over boots. Trapdoor up, down into the short cellar, across to the ladder where the grate lifts to the service run. The bond keeps their steps matched. The first foot on each rung makes no sound. The second presses where the rust will not sing. They reach the run and crouch. The world above is a muffled drum. Voices. A woman telling a man to check the back. A man grunting because he has to stoop. A third voice reporting that the door looks locked. Good acting, Harry thinks. He gives the thought to her. She hums back. They wait, pressed to the damp brick. Harry sets the mirrored aegis in a narrow pane across the run mouth. Bellatrix weaves silence through its heart. The braid holds. The torch beam that drops past the grate glances and wanders off. A boot scrapes. A curse under breath. The woman says, leave it, we do not have a warrant for this one. The man says, since when do we care? The woman says, since Robards told us to stop making paperwork for him at dawn. The voices pass. Harry breathes out slow. Bellatrix's hand finds his wrist in the dark and squeezes once. Good. They wait another minute. Pepper fades. Back up, Harry whispers. Slow. They climb. The coach house is as they left it. The blankets are neat. The kettle sits on the hearth as if no one ever runs for ladders here. He wants to laugh from the absurd normal of it. He does not. They reset the wards with small corrections. Add a line that hums low if the lane gate gets open the wrong way. Bellatrix stands in the ring and closes her eyes for a count. When she opens them, her gaze is sharp again. We did not kill, she says. Your rule stands. It did not get us killed. I am bored already. He snorts. My sermons are short when I'm tired. They switch watches. He lies down on the blanket and lets the floor teach his back what flat means. Sleep comes in pieces. In the pieces he hears Hermione's voice, careful and strict, saying fewer and come back. Ron's laugh, tired. Dumbledore saying nothing and making you say things instead. He wakes twice and reaches for his wand. The second time the bond murmurs, easy, and he sets the wand down without lifting it. Morning leaks in through the high window like thin milk. They eat bread and cheese again and pretend it tastes different. He washes the mugs. She adjusts a ward that went sulky in the night. It is the first quiet morning in weeks that does not feel like borrowed time. He needs to show his face at Grimald Place before the house decides it can worry without him. He stands and rolls his blanket. I have to check in, he says. Hermione will start a list with my name on top if I don't. Bellatrix ties her hair back again and looks at him over the knot. Who will you be when you walk through that door? The one who can move the pieces without knocking the board, he says. The liar who keeps the truth from killing his friends. Bring more water, she says. And a pan. I want eggs if the market will sell them to you without a sermon. He smiles despite himself. Eggs, yes. Sermon, no. At the door he stops. The pull taps at his ribs like a knuckle. He turns back. Last night, he says. The kiss. Yes, she says. I wanted it, he says. I want more. Not now. Later. When we can pay for it without giving some idiot in a robe our heads. Her eyes soften one fraction. Good. Consent is tidy. Later, then. She steps in close enough that the bond purrs and touches his mouth once. Light. It lands like a promise that has learned to walk. He goes. The gate is stubborn and then not. He cuts through the lane, the side street, the square, the front door that sulks and opens. The kitchen smells like toast again. Hermione sits with a notebook and the day's plan. Ron is at the stove with a pan and a look that says he is trying to make eggs into something that can feed 3 armies. There you are, Hermione says. Tea. He drinks. Ron flips an egg with 2 spoons and looks too proud of it. You look less like you got punched by a wall, he says. Sleep help. Some, Harry says. He sits. The chair creaks in a way that tells him the house approves of the lie. Hermione watches and chooses which part of the truth to ignore. Dumbledore at 10, she says. He has questions. You will have answers that are short. Harry nods. He makes his face into the one he keeps for Dumbledore. Polite, steady, no heat. The boy who can be trusted to follow a plan, even when it cuts skin. After breakfast he gives Hermione a list. Water, pan, matches, salt, 2 apples. She raises a brow at the apples. He says, for me, and she writes it without a lecture. He sees Dumbledore in the library. Polite, steady, no heat. The headmaster asks about patrols and occlumency and the state of his scar. Harry answers with facts that are not lies but are not all the facts. Dumbledore's eyes look old and tired and hard. He says, my boy once, too soft, and Harry feels the bond hiss. He smiles and makes it stop. In the corridor after, Snape appears like a smell you can't quite name. He looks at Harry's hands and smirks. You have taken up carpentry, Potter, he says. Your calluses are different. Training, Harry says. He keeps walking. He can feel Snape's eyes on his back like someone judging a painting and hating the frame. He does not turn. Back at the kitchen, Hermione pulls him aside by the sink. St. Mungo's, she says. I'm going at noon with Mrs. Weasley. Neville asked for company for his gran. Do you want to come? He thinks of the corridor. The sweets. The jaw set against crying. He thinks of Bellatrix saying it will make you bleed, and I do not need to carry that pain at noon. He swallows. I can't today, he says. Tell Neville. Tell him I'll see him at practice. Hermione's eyes cut to his. She sees the dodge, marks it, files it for later. She nods. Fewer hours to make bad choices then. He blinks. Fewer, he says, and it almost makes him laugh because grammar is safer than truth. She sees that, lets him keep it. He buys eggs and a pan without a sermon from the vendor because he looks like a boy doing an errand for a fussy aunt. He takes the long way to shake any tail. Back at the coach house, the gate hums welcome. The room breathes him in like it has decided on a second anchor. Bellatrix has set a small ward in the corner that hums when you think about stepping on it. He steps around it without thinking. She notices and allows herself one pleased nod. Good, she says. You learn. He shows the eggs. She grins like a wolf who has discovered a henhouse. He shows the apples. She makes a face. Sweetness is suspicious, she says. Not always, he says, and watches her bite one anyway. She chews and rolls her eyes because it tastes good and she hates admitting it. They cook the eggs in the new pan. The room smells like a house for the first time. He feels something in him unclench that has been tight since the graveyard. He does not say it out loud. After they eat, she drags a crate to the old ring and pries up a board with the tip of her wand. The space under the board is shallow, dark, dry. In it, wrapped in oiled cloth, a small metal plate with a crest he knows from the tapestry, and words engraved in an ugly hand that wanted to be fine. She lifts it. The bond flares like a struck match. He steps closer. The plate is cold as ice. Read, she says. He does. It is not Latin. It is Old English gone crooked with age. He mouths the words, slow. Anchor seeks nexus when vows fail. Blood remembers what the law forgets. Two bound by choice or curse will stand when houses fall. Cost tallied in pairs. Mercy not required. He sets the plate down. The ring hums under the floor. The bond purrs and claws at the same time. We did not choose, he says. No, she says, and touches the plate with one finger. But we will choose what we do now that it has us. He looks up. Her face is bare of masks. That is more dangerous than any spell she has taught him today. Then we choose, he says. Bread on the bench. Water in the jug. Wards set. Exit drills done. You live. I live. We fight smart. We do not burn for nothing. She nods, slow. She sets the plate back in its hole and lays the board down and seals it with a touch. The hum sinks into the floor. Afternoon turns the window to a square of pale light. They train again. Shadow bind. Wand cut. Silence braid. Mirror pane. He learns the map of her shoulders and how to not telegraph with his own. She learns the beat of his breath and where to place a feint so that the bond does not punish them both. They stop when the sting in their wrists turns to heat. Tea, water, bread. He shows her how to fix the leak with a charm that convinces the pipe to like the hole less. She shows him how to set a blade trap that cuts bootlaces and pride and not skin. They laugh once when a rat trips it and scampers off offended. Naked-footed. Clove taps his tongue. He looks up. What, she says. Message, he says. From yourself. Thinks I should kiss you now. She snorts and steps into his space. He meets her. The kiss is not longer, just deeper. The pull settles like a weight in a place it likes. They part. She presses her forehead to his for a breath. Tonight, she says. Tonight, he says, and the word is not a promise to the world. It is a schedule. Dusk comes early because the weather is mean. He takes first watch again at her insistence. She sleeps with a hand on her wand and a foot crooked for sudden movement. He counts breaths and listens to the house. The pull hums, then goes quiet, then hums again like a cat under a blanket. Pepper hits him sharp. Up, he says, already moving. She is up with him. They go to the ladder, but wait. The hum is different. Not oars. Not thieves. A dark call in the distance. Not for her alone, but wide, like a bell rung for the inner circle. Voldemort, she says. Gathering. It grazes me. The bond does not like it. It wants me to ignore him. Ignore him, he says. I am, she says, and the bond punishes the old reflex. Not loud, but nasty, like a small burn on the inside of the wrist. She breathes through it and stays put. He looks at her face and sees the fight it takes to stay. He steps in and takes her hand quick and hard. The burn splits and shares. He takes half. She shoots him a look that says stupid, brave, useful. The pain eases faster for both. The call dies away. The night breathes again. He lets her hand go. She flexes her fingers once. You chose, he says. I did, she says. They do not sleep much after that. Dawn finds them both awake and quiet. He makes tea. She watches the steam and does not laugh. He stands with his mug and looks at the ring and the high window and the blankets and the pan and the kettle and the woman and the wand and the door. We keep going, he says. We keep going, she says. The bond hums, pleased for once that the rule is simple. Outside, the city decides whether it will rain again. Inside, they fold blankets and make a list in their heads. Bread, water, salt, oil for the hinge that complains. 2 candles. More chalk. Eggs if the vendor is still kind. He touches the ring in the floor with his boot. She lifts the trapdoor and checks the ladder. They take turns at the door to listen. They write no lists on paper. They keep the plan in their mouths and their bones. At noon, when he is due back at grim old place, Clove brushes his tongue again. Not a call this time. A reminder. Her voice follows, low. For the day, she says. For the day, he answers and takes the bags and goes to play the boy who can be trusted, while the coach house learns their names and decides to keep them. Rain held on through the morning. A steady tap from the leak that Harry convinced the pipe to hate again. The coach house smelled of tea, damp brick, and the iron tang of old wards. Bread sat on the bench between two knives that matched nothing. The ring in the floor hummed quiet under the boards. Bellastrix stood at the workbench with her sleeves up and a stick of chalk in her fist. She had drawn 3 rough maps and a list that was not written down. He knew it by heart anyway. Entry. Lift. Lock. Room. Exit. Noise rules. Stop words. Hands off the curse that makes the world point. He leaned on the bench and drank, warm ceramic against his fingers. The pull sat low and heavy and, for once, helpful. When he looked at her, it hummed in approval. He ignored that. Say it all back, she said. No charm to remember. Mouth it. He did. 2 exits. Lane ladder. Front to square. A third if we take the roof, but it squeaks. Shift change at 2:17. Desk clerk who likes sweets and Sudoku. 2 Aurors on the middle swing who are new and trying to be brave. Ward grid on the door reads fingerprints through leather. Your plate answers the old seal in the jam. We go in quiet, turn left, 2 doors, stairs down. Evidence lockup is in the second basement now because the first looks like a pantry for alibis. Room 3C. Cabinet with 3 seals. Ministry tag, Auror tag, old house tag. We can fake the first. We borrow the second off a locker with your cut. We answer the third because we can. Writ stamps, ledger keys, registry plates. We take a bag. We fill it once. We leave. No second trips. No souvenirs. She nodded once. Why tonight? Because the weather is rude and the night shouts less when it is wet. Because Robards moved half his crew to the river entrance after a tip about smugglers. Because Tonks is on the late shift in the atrium, and she will be busy making drunks giggle at their own hair. Because the goblins sent a formal complaint about wand inspections on a Tuesday and the office is still writing replies. Her mouth curled. Your gossip network is a schoolgirl with a black belt. He did not smile. He tapped the ring with the toe of his boot. What happens if we fail? We run, she said. If we can't, we make a hole. If we can't, we drag someone down with us and pay together. But we will not fail. We are not stupid tonight. He put the mug down. Teach me the last piece. She drew 2 intersecting circles on the bench in chalk. Your shield is a pane. Mine is a dome. Alone, they either shatter or flex. Together, they can take a bite of a blow and return it without spitting back in our faces. We call it a stitch. You lay the pane. I lay silence into the center. You keep the edges flat. I keep the heart calm. If one of us panics, it will squeal and call every badge in the corridor. He set his wand on the wood, palm flat beside it. How do we know we are stitched? You will taste copper. I will taste lemon. If you taste lemon, you have done something wrong and I will insult you. He snorted. She almost smiled. They moved to the ring. The boards thudded under their feet. He raised the mirrored aegis in a thin sheet just off his skin. She lifted silence with a twist that began at her wrist and ended in the point of her wand. When she laid the silence into the shield, it settled like cloth. He tasted copper at the edge of his tongue. She breathed out in a short, pleased sound. Again, she said. 5 times. No talking. They did it 5 times. On the third, he felt the edge wobble when he glanced at her hands instead of his. She rapped his knuckles with the back of her wand. He hissed, then laughed under his breath because he had walked into that on purpose. The 5th time the pain took the silence without wrinkling. He tasted copper, clean. Good, she said. Now make it move. They walked the room stitched shoulder to shoulder, bumping into the bench once and then not. The shield held. The leak tapped. The coach house decided not to fight them. We will not kill, he said. She looked at him in a way that weighed the words. He added, not unless there is no door left. No lies. We cannot carry the price and still walk tomorrow. She nodded, slow. Fine. Not unless. That rule will not save anyone if they insist on dying in front of us. We have to be willing to hurt, he said. She lifted her eyebrows. Have you seen your wrists this week? He looked at his wrists. Small red lines where spells had bit and been paid for. He curled his hands and let the ache be honest. We make noise only when we mean to, he said. We do not spook the whole building to feel brave. Agreed, she said. One more trick. Come here. She stood behind him, close enough that he heard her breathe but not so close that the bond got smug. Her wand traced a neat arc along the back of his cloak. Then a second, then a small mark at his shoulder blade. Walk, she said. He walked to the far wall. She stayed. The space behind him felt occupied in a way that made his skin notice corners. He turned left fast. A shadow stayed where he had been and then drifted forward 3 steps and faded. Echo cloak, she said. It gives someone chasing you a ghost to swing at. It is cheap in narrow corridors. It fails in open rooms. If you show off in a wide hall, the spell gets bored and leaves. He grunted. Show me the anchor. She showed him. He learned it fast because he was learning everything fast, and because the bond made the line between watching and doing thin as paper. The echo walked where he had just been and fooled his eyes even when he knew the trick. He cut it and recalled it and cut it again until it felt like a coat he could pull on in the dark. They ate early. Eggs, bread, tea. The plan sat between them, simple and ugly and sensible. He told her the stop word. She gave him hers. He put them in his mouth and kept them behind his teeth. Dusk fell quiet and sullen. He checked his boots. She checked the knife traps. They stood in the ring and breathed until the hum under the floor matched their chests. Then they left. Side door, lane, ladder, service run, up to the alley, through the rain in hoods that made them unremarkable. They did not speak on the way. The bond carried the few things that mattered. Now, left, wait, duck. The city watched them pass and decided they were no one at all. The ministry's back entrance pretended to be an office door behind an ugly statue that no one liked. Water ran in the seams of the stone. The handle felt like a dare. Bellastrix touched the jamb where the old seal was buried under new wood. The plate in her sleeve hummed and the wood released its breath. The door opened just enough. They slipped through. The corridor smelled like wax and paper and wet wool. Lamps hummed. A cleaner with a trolley turned a corner 2 floors up and whistled off-key. The echo cape drifted. The stitch held. Harry watched the grid on the wall pulse as it tried to count people it did not see. Left. 2 doors. Stairs. The lock on the stair handle redskin. Bellatrix laid her fingers on it for half a breath. The plate in her cuff warmed. The handle clicked. They went down. The first basement was bright and empty. A place for people who liked to file things and pretend wars were tidy. The second was colder. The lamps were fewer and the paint on the floor told older stories. They reached the landing. The bond lifted its head. Listen, she said. He did. A man breathing through a blocked nose. A tick-tock of a watch tapped on a metal desk. A wrapper crinkled. Pencil scratched. One guard, bored enough to be lazy and too new to risk it. Echo, Harry thought. She nodded. He walked so the echo would pass the door first. The guard came to look and watched the shadow go left. He stepped out with his wand low to follow a boy who wasn't there. Bellatrix slid behind the desk and tapped the locker key on its hook with a neat trick of the wrist. The key dropped without sound into her palm. She moved like someone who had practiced opening drawers in rooms where the door might open at any second. Harry stood by the cabinet and let the echo draw the guard 10 steps down the corridor. The spiderweb ward on the cabinet flickered. Bellatrix's plate buzzed in her cuff. The ward relaxed. She took the aura tag off the locker with a cut so fine the air did not mind it. Back he sent. She came. The guard swore under his breath at his own eyes and went back to his desk. The echo faded. The stitch hummed. They breathed. Cabinet, she said. They stood on either side of the tall steel door. 3 seals. She fitted the ministry tag in the first, spun, clicked. He fed a sliver of power into the aura tag and laid it in the second. It drank the power and lit. Bellatrix pressed the plate in her sleeve flush to the 3rd seal. It took a breath and then let go like something that had been waiting for years to matter again. The door opened on a smell of oil and old leather. Shelves to the ceiling. Boxes with numbers. Bagged wands. Catalogs. A row of lockboxes the size of shoeboxes, each with two little mouths waiting to be fed. He could feel the magic in the room like static striping his arms. His stomach tightened. This was a place where choices were made to feel safe. We take what we said, he said. No curiosity. She went straight to the back shelf. Third section down. She knew the room with her hands. She pulled a ledger with a cracked spine and a box labeled passage stamps. Then a palm-sized plate embossed with the same seal that had opened the door. He held the bag open. She dropped the plate and the ledger and the stamps. He took 2 rolls of old key paper. She lifted a compass orb that pointed to the nearest active registry plate and sat spinning like it had been bored in the dark. He hesitated. She nodded once. He put it in. Footsteps. Not the guard. More feet. He froze and felt Bellastrix freeze. The echo was still down the hall where it had died. The stitch was up. He looked at her. She looked at him. He tasted copper. She tasted lemon and did not insult him. We have what we came for, he thought. Go, she thought. They moved. Door shut. Tags pocketed. The corridor outside filled with voices. A woman laughed and then stopped because someone shushed her. The shush had authority and boredom both. They reached the corner. He breathed in slow. Left or lift, he thought. Lift, she thought. They took the lift because stairs squeak when people hurry and neither of them wanted to run. The gate rolled with a complaint. The cage rose. He held the stitch and she held silence so hard her knuckles went white. The lift stopped at the first basement where the light was ugly and practical. The gate started to open. Harry pulled the echo cloak forward and let it slip out first. The 2 Aurors who had come to check the second basement glanced up and followed the echo with their eyes. The cage closed. The lift rose. Harry swallowed a laugh that had no joy at all. In the service corridor on the next floor they met a clerk with a stack of parchment up to his chin. He could not see over it. He walked into Harry's shield and bounced. Parchment slid. The clerk cursed in a polite whisper. Harry reached to help on reflex. Bellatrix caught his wrist. No, she said without speaking. The stitch thrummed to warn him not to break. He lifted his hand back. The clerk peered around the stack, saw no one, and decided the wall had been at fault. He shuffled away. Harry blew out a breath. Bellatrix's mouth twitched. We leave now, she said. They made the lane door without meeting anyone else. The rain had given up. The street lights wore halos of mist. Harry felt the pull ease like a hand loosening. He did not relax yet. 2 turns. Alley. Gate. Yard. Door. Coach house. Inside, they did not talk for a minute. They put the bag on the bench and listened to their hearts slow down. He set his back to the wall and slid down until he sat on the boards. She leaned on the bench with her palms flat and her head down. He felt the shake after. Came like a late storm. He let it pass through. He did not hide it. She did not mock it. When his hands settled, he stood. Show me the goods, he said. She opened the bag. The ledger was heavy and smelled like old glue. The passage's stamps had a dent where a clerk had dropped the box and pretended not to. The registry plate was cold. The compass orb spun until Bellatrix set it on the plate, where it steadied and pointed at the plate like a dog with nothing else to do. This matters, she said. With this, we do not have to cut our way through every door. We decide our own doors. He nodded. He felt the part of him that loved rules lean in for a moment and hated itself for it. We did not kill, he said. Not for them. No, she said. We hurt one man's pride and one clerk's elbow. He will live to file a complaint. He laughed once. Felt like it belonged to the room now. Tea, he said. Tea, she said. They drank standing up. The pull was pleased in a way that made him want to kick a wall. He did not kick a wall. He put his forehead on the cool window frame and breathed. The bond twitched. A taste of metal and old perfume. Not clove. Not pepper. Bellatrix went very still. He is angry, she said. He called his dogs and they came with tails between their legs and stories about ghosts. He wants to know where I was. Stay, Harry said. I am, she said. And the bond punished the old reflex again. a small burn under her skin that he took half of without being noble about it. She leaned back on the bench, jaw tight, and breathed through it. I hate him, she said, voice flat. Good, Harry said. Keep it clean. Hate is simpler than love to carry into a fight. She shot him a look. I will never love him. You did, he said. You loved what he promised. That counts. Naming it makes it stop dragging at your ankles. Her mouth twisted. You are very good at putting ugly labels on jars. I learned from a woman who labels knives, he said. That earned him a thin laugh. She set her mug down and stepped into his space. Not to kiss. Not yet. She rested her forehead to his for a count. The bond purred. She stepped back. We plan bigger now, she said. He will chase harder. Your headmaster will do what he always does when he sees a thing he cannot predict. He will isolate you and call it care. Harry thought of the library and the old eyes and the gentle words that cut like paperwork. He nodded. He looked at the ledger, the plate, the stamps. We can move, he said. We can choose where and when. He will hate that. They both will. We will show them teeth, she said. Not to posture. To set a price. He wiped the chalk from the bench with his sleeve and drew 3 squares. Safe house. Route. Target. He drew lines between them and did not call it a map. He wrote nothing beside them. He put it in his mouth and down into his hands. The rain returned in a thin line at the leak. The kettle ticked. The city outside remembered it was old and tired and went back to pretending nothing had happened. He went to Grimmauld Place at noon with apples in a bag to make the lie look ordinary. Ron and Hermione were at the table with parchment and a list of patrols. Mrs. Weasley had left a plate of scones covered with a cloth that said family in a way that made his chest pinch. You look like you slept, Hermione said, which was her way of saying she knew he had not. He poured tea. Dumbledore wants to adjust curfew, she added. Because of the break-in. What break-in? Harry said. Too careful. Ministry evidence lockup, she said. Or gossip already made it to the flue. Someone took registry plates and stamps. Bold. Stupid. No injuries. Robards is swearing. Tonks laughed when she told me. Then she didn't laugh because she is a professional. Ron whistled. That is brave and daft at once. Who would do that? Harry swallowed a smile so hard it hurt behind his nose. People who need to live, he said. Hermione's eyes flicked to his. She tucked that away. She slid a small parchment to him. Dumbledore at 2. Snape at 5. Please do not get into it with him. I do not have the energy to post bail. He grunted. He ate a scone to look like a boy. He left without telling them that the boy in question was busy being something else entirely. Back at the coach house he found Bellatrix with her boots off and a knife in her hand, cutting a thin notch into a block of wood. She looked up. We have one more thing to do, she said. He raised a brow. We build a way to talk when the bond decides to sulk, she said. It is moody. It likes us together and punishes us when we are not. We need a road that ignores it. She held up the block of wood. On it she had cut 2 crude sigils and a line. Old runes, the kind the ministry pretended were nonsense when it needed to lie about something being safe. 2 plates, she said. Twins. We cut them, we trade them, we power them with the smallest drop once a day. If I press mine, yours will grow warm. If you press yours, mine will. It is not loud. It will not be stopped by easy wards. It is useless to anyone who is not us. If we lose one, we burn it. If someone else touches it, it burns them. He nodded. He took the knife. He cut his plate under her hand. His cuts were straight. He had good hands. He did not like praising them for making this easier. When the plates were done they each pressed a thumb to their own and 1 drop of blood sank into the wood and was gone. The bond approved of this small loyalty trick. He tried not to punch the wall again. Later they trained. Not long. Not to exhaustion. Just enough to feel the stitch go on and stay on through movement and breath and low talk. He asked, why did you really follow him? She answered, because he told me I was not ordinary. Because I was not. Because I had a gift for pain and a family that pretended it was grace. Because he lit me up like a candle and never asked where the wax went. He asked, why follow me now? She said, because you are not lying about the price I will pay and because you are tired and still keep your word. Because the bond says I will die if you do and I am selfish. Because I like the way you fight. Because I want to watch the headmaster try to manage you and fail. Because I want to put a knife in the old man's voice that made you into a banner. He did not flinch. He folded that answer into a place he would not touch tonight. He stepped into her space and put his hand on the side of her neck and felt the small throb there. You are mine, she said. I am, he said. And you are mine. Do not make me say it pretty. We do not need pretty. She kissed him. It was not sweet. It was careful. It was a small anchor sunk deep. When she stepped back, both of them were breathing like they had been running in silence. Clove brushed his tongue. Her voice followed. Tonight we test the plate in a crowd. Where, he said. Black door on the muse, she said. We will be the ones standing still while everyone else moves. If the plate calls and you cannot move, drop a coin. I will move for both of us. He nodded. He would not test her by failing on purpose. He would not test them by trying to be clever. They slept in shifts. 2:15 he shook her awake. They went out again, not to steal this time, but to map the way the city moved around them when they stood still and listened. The plate warmed in his pocket once. He pressed it. The warmth in his pocket became warmth in her palm. She nodded. It worked. On the third corner they passed two men whispering in a doorway in bad suits with decent wands tucked behind their belts. Ministry. On the fourth, a woman with a hat too large for her hair asked the time. Bellastrix did not slow. Harry did. He gave her the time. She smiled with teeth he did not trust and walked on. He did not turn to watch her. He listened for footsteps behind them. None. On the square across from the ugly statue he stopped. The bond tightened. He felt eyes. Bellatrix's hand found his arm. Two aurors stood under a lamp, looking at a clipboard as if it could solve anything. One of them laughed in a tired way. The other rubbed his temple and glared at the sky. They did not look at the two hooded shapes near the fence. Not really. People see what their knight can carry. Harry turned away. The bond eased. He breathed. Back in the coach house he sat on the floor and counted his breaths. Bellatrix took her boots off again and rubbed the mark on her throat where the bond had punished her wanting to go when the call tugged. She watched him. He said, "We are going to win." She said, "We are going to survive." That is different. He nodded. He took the ledger and the stamps and the plate and tucked them into the space under the board that had held the metal plaque. He sealed it with a touch. The hum in the floor accepted the new shape. Morning came quiet and gray. He went to Grimmauld Place before the house grew lonely. Hermione handed him a list and a lecture about patrol routes. Ron made an omelette that stuck to the pan and called it rustic. Mrs. Weasley hugged him in a way that erased a year off his back and added two more. Dumbledore called him "my boy," again in a voice that made Harry's teeth want to crack. He swallowed it and kept his answers short. Snape made remarks about carpentry again. Harry did not rise to it. He had other work. In the afternoon, Clove came sharp. He went still and listened. "Here," Bellatrix said. "Now, bring the stitch." He left by the side door, cut through the lane, and reached the coach house in 6 minutes without looking like he was running. Inside, Bellatrix had the bench cleared and the maps out. The plate sat warm and the compass orb sat on it, pointing at nothing because it was home. He shut the door. She looked up. Her eyes were bright in a way that meant she was not steady and was telling the truth anyway. "He wants to set a trap at the river," she said. "He wants me to pull you there. He thinks he can make me choose him when I smell the water and the old stones and hear him say my name. He thinks my leash will tighten. He thinks he made it. He did not. The bond did." Harry's mouth went dry. "We do not go." "No," she said. "We go somewhere else and make noise on purpose. We show our teeth and show them we choose our own ground. We use the plate. We walk through a door they think is theirs and leave by a door they forgot they owned." He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the bench. "Who do we hurt? Whoever tries to stop us," she said. "Not more than we need to. Do not make me promise less." "I will not." He nodded once. He put the rule in his mouth and swallowed it. "Not unless. If no door, make a hole." They set their route. Lane. Alley. Ministry side. Plate. Lift. Floor 2. Document room. Fire alarms are wards in this building. If you want to make everyone run, you sing. They would not sing. They would whisper and leave. They went at dusk. The rain had finally given up. The city smelled like wet stone cooling. The bond was quiet because they were moving together. At the back door Bellastrix laid the plate on the jamb, and the wood sighed like an old woman when a chair notices her and fits her spine. They went in. They crossed halls and traded nods with a bored clerk who was already late to somewhere else. They moved into the lift and kept their heads down. On the second floor the corridor was full of shelves and paper and men who believed the world could be sorted by writing it down. They walked past a door with an old label. Property and warrants. Bellastrix lifted her chin. There. Inside, the shelves were taller and the locks were quieter. They did not want to be noticed. They wanted to be obeyed. Bellastrix laid her palm and the plate on 2 seals and the door let them through. On the far wall sat a cabinet with 6 small drawers, each labeled with a year. She pulled 2 out. Harry stacked what she chose. Writ plate, 3 sets. Seal keys for exit doors that never see daylight. A slate with the shorthand for sublevel maintenance routes. He took none of the file folders with names. They were poison. He left them to the men who loved filing. He took the roads. Footsteps. Sharp. Not bored. A woman who did not like being wrong and had been told she was tonight. They froze. Harry lifted the echo. Stepped left. The woman's steps followed the shadow. The shadow turned the corner. The woman turned. Harry and Bellatrix slid right into the service stair. The woman swore in a voice he knew. Tonks. He felt his stomach go small. He swallowed it and kept moving. The stitch held. They went down. They did not run. On the landing a man in a hat tried to be helpful and got in the way. Harry brushed his sleeve with a very small push. The man turned into a door and forgot why. Bellatrix gave Harry a quick look that said, "No showing off." He shrugged. They reached the bottom hall, turned into a storage lane, and walked into 2 oars who were walking faster than they were thinking. "Stop," the first said, because that is what a person says when they do not know what else to say. Harry stopped. Bellatrix did not. She stepped into the first oar space, cut his bootlaces with a trapline that snapped and made him fall on his hands, and Harry set a shadow bind across both ankles. The second swung a wand up. Harry lifted the stitch. The spell hit and bounced with a flat sound, turned to cold, and ran down the floor into a drain. The oar froze. He had never seen that before. He opened his mouth. Bellatrix tapped his throat with a tiny numb charm, neat and temporary. He tried to shout and could only make air. He looked at Harry with eyes that said, "You are a boy." Harry kept his face plain. He did not like that look. He did not fix it for the man. They stepped over the 2 of them, set the silence back into the stitch and kept going. At the side door a clerk with a mop came around the corner. He saw them. He saw nothing. He kept walking. They went out. "No heroics," Bellatrix said, not unkind. "I know," Harry said. His chest hurt. He breathed slow and it stopped. At the coach house they put the stolen plates and keys in the hole under the board and sealed it. They stood with the kettle ticking and the ring humming. "Now he knows we can walk through his walls," she said. "Now your headmaster will stop treating you like a boy they can keep in a house. He will try to move you like a piece. You will not move." He rubbed his face. "I will not move unless I chose the square." She nodded, satisfied. Her gaze went to the knife by the sink and back to him. He knew that look now. Not threat. Promise. "You want to cut him," he said. "Yes," she said. "He put a leash on me and called it faith. He will learn the price of confusing the 2. Later, when the house had gone quiet and the city was pretending at peace again, they sat on the blankets. The plate warmed in his pocket. He pressed it. Warmth answered in her palm. She smiled in a way that was private and tired. He said, "I still want to save people when we can." She said, "Then choose the moments, and do not ask me to applaud when you bleed. Tell me first. I will hold your jaw while you do it so you do not grind your teeth to chalk." He huffed. "Glamourless romance," he said. "The best kind," she said, and kissed him. It was longer this time, not because of victory, because of the way their plan had held, because the plates worked, because the world had not fallen on their heads, because they had chosen their own door. When they parted, his hands shook and not from fear. Hers did too. They watched each other own it. After, they lay back on opposite cushions with the truce blanket between them and spoke in low voices about tomorrow. He said, Dumbledore will ask where I was. He will know the time. He always knows the times he cares about. She said, then give him a time he can file. Dinner, library, occlumency, bed by midnight like a good boy. He is old enough to remember when the only thing you could trust was a calendar. He said, nice. She said, honest. I am not asking you to lie. I am asking you to tell a version that will keep us breathing. He turned his head on the cushion and watched the high window go from black to a very thin gray. We should sleep, he said. We should, she said, not moving. They slept badly and then well. The bond was quiet for once. When Pepper woke him once at 3, it was a fox in the lane and not a raid. He let it go. He slept again. Morning brought eggs and salt and the list in his head. Plates under the floor. Ledger closed. Knives set. Boots ready. Dumbledore at noon. Snape at 5. Coach house at dusk. He told Bellatrix the times. She told him the door words again because she liked the way he said them when he meant them. On his way out he stopped at the bench. He touched the registry plate through the wood. It hummed under his fingers like a low, steady note. He looked at her. She looked back. We will try not to burn anything we do not need to, he said. We will try, she said. Do not mistake trying for promising. He nodded. He went to Grimmauld Place and walked into a kitchen full of noise. Hermione was saying fewer at Ron and Ron was saying he knew, stop smacking him with grammar. Mrs. Weasley handed him toast and asked if he had slept. He did not lie. Enough, he said. She kissed his cheek. At noon Dumbledore asked for his trust again. Harry gave him the kind that keeps you standing in a storm. The headmaster asked fewer questions than usual. That meant he knew more than Harry wanted him to. Harry kept his answers short and plain and let the silence do some of the talking. At 5 Snape smirked like a man who smelled smoke and wanted to know if it would reach his robes. Harry said nothing and left on time. At dusk the coach house welcomed him like a room that had decided, against its better judgment, to care. Bellatrix had moved the blankets to make a better angle on the door. The kettle was already on. The plate sat warm. The compass orb slept on it like a pet rock. We keep going, he said. We keep going, she said. He lifted his wand. She lifted hers. The stitch slid into place without effort. Copper at his tongue. Lemon at hers. She did not insult him. He grinned despite himself. They stepped into the ring and began again. The house hummed under their feet. The leek tapped its small hard song. The knight, for once, did not argue. They were not heroes. They were not saints. They were two anchors walking the same road on purpose, and the world, which loves clear lines, would have to learn to live with that. The plate in Harry's pocket warmed first. A heartbeat later the bond burned along Bellatrix's wrist like a wire pulled hot. He is calling, she said. The call is wide. Inner circle and anyone who can still stand. Where, Harry asked. South Bank Arches. The old river stairs behind the warehouse with the broken clock. He wants stone underfoot and water to carry gossip. We do not go, he said out loud, steady. We choose ground, she said, and then flinched. The pull dug in. He took half without talking about it. She breathed through the rest and lifted her chin. We go, she said. On our terms. He nodded once. Stitch. Echo. Nets. No kills unless there is no door. Stop words in mouth. Hands off the big lights. If you reach for the unforgivables, I will stop you. Good, she said. If you start trying to save the whole river, I will drag you. They checked the coach house in a minute because drills make hands honest. Wards set. Trapline reset. Plate hidden. Ledger down in the floor. Knives placed. The ring hummed under the boards. Then they went out the side door, through the lane and down into the service run. Up the far grate. Through the mews. And across to the river where old arches held old stories and the stairs ran dark to the water. They arrived before the others. Bellatrix walked the low arcade once, eyes up. 6 arches. 2 pillars thick with moss. A rusted iron ring at the third where boats used to tie. The echo cloak would hold near stone. The stitch would drum if hit too hard. Water would drink the sound. Good. She set 2 thin shadow nets waist-high between the second and third pillars. Harry braided silence into the mirrored aegis until copper sat clean on his tongue. They stood back to back in the shallow of the 4th archboots in water. Wands low, they came in pairs and threes. First the masks, then the man they obeyed. Apparition cracks sounded wrong under the arches. The air took them and turned them flat. Hooded shapes fanned out and left a circle empty in the wet stones. Voldemort stepped into it like the water knew him. "Bellatrix," he said. His voice carried like a knife on a plate. She did not flinch. Harry felt the pull yank like a leash. He set his hand to her sleeve without looking, and the bond split the pain between them. "My lord," she said. Calm. Empty courtesy. Not a bow. His eyes moved to Harry. He did not blink. He did not smile. "Potter," he said, as if the word were a small task he had put off. Harry did not answer. He was busy counting wrists and angles. Dolohov to the left with his shoulder low. Yaxley near the back patient. The Carrows in a pair as usual. Rookwood turning his wand in his fingers like a key. Greyback without a mask at the edge, tongue against his teeth. Voldemort's gaze returned to Bellatrix. "Come here," he said. The pull hit hard. Bellatrix's breath hitched. The bond punished her hesitation with a burn under the skin that made Harry's jaw lock. She did not move. She set her feet. "You taught me to stand," she said. "I am standing." Murmurs along the line. A mask tilted. Greyback laughed once. Voldemort's head turned a fraction. His hand lifted as if he could pull string out of the air. "You forget yourself," he said. "I remember very well," she said. "Your lessons. Your punishments. The way you like obedience more than victory. The way you call devotion a tool but expect worship." He lowered his hand. The soft of his voice turned to stone. "Kneel." "No," she said. The Cruciatus leapt from his wand before the word ended. It crossed the circle fast and mean. Harry pulled the stitch up. The curse hit and the pain flexed. Sound cracked against stone. The echo of pain ran through the bond anyway. Thin as wire and twice as sharp. Bellatrix's teeth clicked. Harry swallowed a groan. Voldemort's eyes narrowed. He had expected her to drop. He had expected Harry to scream. Neither happened. She breathed out and smiled without softness. "You forget something else," she said. "We are two." She moved first. A snap of her wand to lay a shadow net across the front rank at knee height. 2 masks stumbled. One fell to his hands with a curse. Harry slid the echo left to pull eyes. 3 wands tracked the wrong shape and fired. The spells hit water and hissed. "Stop them," Voldemort said, and the circle closed. The fight started fast and got faster. Harry stepped through the first arc of light and cut a wand at the seam where grip met wood. The stick died in Yaxley's hand. Bellatrix dropped a silence braid on Dolohov's mouth, so his curse came out as air and anger. The Carrows tried for a crossfire. Harry set the stitch and the spells hit and turned to cold and ran at their boots. Greyback lunged. Bellatrix reversed his footing with a small twist of his ankle and he hit the stones with a snarl, teeth on rock. She could have driven him under the water and held him there. She did not. She bound his wrists with a flat wrap and let him breathe mud. Harry moved through the left line and put a shadow net where their knees wanted to be. 2 more went down cursing. The shared pain spiked when Bellatrix snapped a cutting charm too hard and nicked a sleeve to blood. He took half. She adjusted at once and switched to impact work. Ribs, not throats. Walls, not hearts. Voldemort did not cast again right away. He watched. That was worse. He tilted his head as if listening to a tune only he heard. He saw the stitch. He saw the nets. He saw the way Harry moved first to block for Bellatrix and not to open for himself. "This is crude," he said to her over the noise. "You are reduced, Bella. You were a fire." She laughed once. "You gave me matches and called it love. He gives me rules and does not lie about the bill. I prefer honest debt." The Carrows flanked left. Harry heard Tonks before he saw her. She and Kingsley took the top of the river stairs at a run, wands up. Order robes under wet coats. They had followed the gossip and arrived late and right on time. Kingsley took in the scene in a glance. He spoke in his low, steady way to Tonks without looking away. "Stitch," he said. "They are layered. Watch the floor. Tonks nodded. Hair soaked flat under a hood. She set a shield and took a stunner aimed at her shoulder solid and clean. Bellastrix laughed again. Sharp. Listen then, she called across the noise. She pitched it so both sides would hear. You want a weakness, old man. Your snake is not a pet. Guard it and count its breaths. Voldemort's eyes cut to her like a knife. The Carrows flinched. Rookwood faltered one step. Kingsley's eyes ticked to Harry for a fraction. Harry did not nod. He did not need to. Enough, Voldemort said, and lifted his wand. The curse that followed was not red. It was a deep, flat thing that sucked air as it came. Harry did not know the word for it and did not care. He pulled the stitch. Bellatrix set silence into the heart. The spell hit hard and the shield squealed like an iron bar. Copper flooded Harry's mouth. Lemon hit Bellatrix's. The stitch held. The circle tried to flood them. Harry set an echo and let it stumble forward so 3 Death Eaters chased a ghost into a net. Bellatrix stepped into the space that opened and cracked Rookwood's wand arm with a short sharp twist that sounded like a stick breaking. He went down with his teeth shut on a shout because he did not want to give her the pleasure. She gave herself the pleasure anyway and moved on. The burn of the bond climbed. Voldemort called again without words. A tug along the old mark and the parts of Bellatrix that remembered kneeling. She swayed. Harry said the stop word under his breath and closed his hand around her sleeve. The bond split the pain. She straightened and met Voldemort's eyes across the crush. You taught me to love a void, she said. He is not one. Voldemort's face did not change, but the air around him got colder. Lucius shouted something from the edge about orders and lines. Bellatrix smiled at him like a knife. I already cut you once, she said. Do not beg for a matching scar. Harry's shoulder lit when a curse got through thin at the edge. He sucked air and steadied. Bellatrix felt it and turned her body without thinking, so the next spell hit her cloak and not his ribs. Shared pain snapped hot and sharp. They both rode it down until it turned to a sting. Tonks saw the opening and dropped a stunner over their stitched shoulder that took a mask off his feet. Kingsley moved like a door that only opens one way. He put 2 men on the stones clean and quiet. Voldemort finally stepped forward. The circle opened for him as if the water pushed it. He lifted his wand and the world pinched small. Harry felt the old scar on his forehead pull like a hook. Less than before, different. The bond sat between him and that pull like a hand in a door. Bellatrix's jaw clenched. She shook once and held. Move, Harry said. Now, she said. They did not try to duel him. They did something worse. They refused to stand still. Harry cut left with the echo like a decoy and drew 2 spells that hit water. Bellatrix stepped right and set a silence braid at Voldemort's feet, so the next word he spoke came out thin and wrong. He flicked it away as if it were a cobweb and smiled without heat. You cannot win, he said. You can only run. We can choose, she said. He lifted his wand. She lifted hers. Harry lifted his. For a breath the 3 of them stood in a line, and the people around them were only noise and light. Then Greyback roared and flung himself from the side where he had cut his bindings on a rock with his teeth. Harry pivoted and dropped him flat with a flick that knocked the wind out of him because that was kinder than killing him. The choice cost them a beat. Voldemort took it. A spell cut the air. It was fast and thin. Bellatrix turned and took it across her ribs because it was heading for Harry's throat. The bond screamed. Both of them dropped to one knee and caught themselves on palms slick with river water. She swore without drama. He took half and saw black at the edge of his sight. The Carrows hooped and rushed. Kingsley blocked one. Tonks blocked the other. The arc of spells in the arch jumped a pitch. The fight tilted. Harry tasted iron. He could pull his wand and answer with anything he had. He could stand and make a hole big enough to get out. He could also give in to the part of him that wanted to drown the arch in light and noise. He looked at Bellatrix's mouth and the blood on her teeth and chose. Up, he said. On my count. 1. She set her hand on his sleeve because the bond was hot and clumsy. 2, he said. Stitch, Coppers and Lemon. Their breath matched. 3, he said, and they went. He did not aim at faces. He hit hands. He took wands. He flattened knees. He used the shadow nets like walls. He cut bootlaces to drop men who were looking the wrong way. He made the floor slick and then dry in quick squares so feet forgot how to stand. He threw a stunner into a mask when the man tried to draw a knife with his left. Bellastrix moved where he was not and made every open line dear. When she reached for something that wanted to hurt too much, he said her name once and she switched without argument. Voldemort watched and then lifted the curse that turned the water short and mean. The river clawed up the stairs and tried to pull ankles. Harry jumped and the echo took a fall for him. Bellatrix set a shallow ward to give the water a lip to trip on. It worked for one breath. The next wave came heavy. Kingsley's voice carried. Fall back to the wall. Tonks, right? Stagger it. Do not trip their nets. He was not talking to Harry. He was talking to the Order who were coming one by pairs down the stairs and through the arches. Moody. Hestia. A man Harry did not know with a steady stance and a scar across his nose who kept his mouth shut. They were not here to save him. They were here to stop the river of masked men from leaving with him. The pull inside Bellatrix hit a peak. Loyalty compulsion dug its teeth in and shook. She choked on it. Voldemort smiled for the first time that night. Remember, he said. Remember whose name your bones like to say. Her mouth moved. Could have said his. It did not. Harry, she said. Clear. Then louder so both lines would hear, she added, mine. Voldemort's face went blank. The arch went quiet for a breath. Then everything tried to happen at once. He moved. She moved. The circle surged. The Order answered. Wands cracked. Stone rang. Someone screamed. Someone swallowed it and kept working. Bellatrix turned to Voldemort and spoke fast and cruel, so the part of him that could not imagine disobedience would hear the shape of it plain. You never made me strong, she said. You made me busy. He makes me choose. Pick him. She slashed her wand and took the knee of the nearest mask. Harry set a mirror pane and threw back a hex at the wall where it did no one harm but drew fire off her. Voldemort fired a thin curse that turned the air cold. Harry stepped into it and the stitch buckled and held. His teeth rattled. Her ribs screamed. They did not drop. Tonks shouted, Kingsley. The snake. He heard. He did not ask. Greyback found his feet again and charged at Bellatrix because he hated her more than sense. She let him come, took his wrist, and buried him face down in the shallows with a twist that left him gagging on river. He would remember that every time he smelled wet stone. She let him up. She did not cut his throat. She did not need to. We are done here, Harry said in her ear. We make the door. She nodded and changed the fight with 2 quick moves. She set a silence braid sideways so the next volley came out as wind and spit, then slashed a wand cut along the edge of 3 grips at once with a clean neat line that killed 3 sticks for a minute. Harry used the hole and pulled the echo forward at a full run. Wands tracked it. He and Bellatrix went the other way. Voldemort saw. He lifted his wand and the path ahead of them thickened. Not with a ward but with the feeling of deep mud. Bellatrix did not slow. Harry did not slow. Feet fought it and went through. The bond was a rope that pulled them in the same direction and punished any thought of parting. It helped for once. Kingsley stepped into their wake and laid 2 men flat. Tonks cleared a lane and slipped without looking to help a man with a broken arm drag himself out of the water. Moody swore and threw something small that cracked like ice and made 5 masks stop and blink. Voldemort did not chase. He did not need to. He would rather let people run and work on their dreams later. He did not love a brawl. He loved a lesson. Bellatrix turned at the edge of the arch and looked back at him because that is who she was. He looked at her and did not blink. You will die begging, he said. She smiled like a cut. Not for you, she said, and ran. They took the river stairs 2 at a time with shared pain gnawing and the stitch buzzing tired at their hands. Up to the quay. Through a short lane of wet stone and yellow lamplight. Into a narrow court where the echo could walk and fool anyone watching the wrong corner. They ran until the bond stopped gasping and started to purr again because distance had become immediate safety. They did not talk until the muse. When they did, it was quiet and plain. You are hit, he said. Ribs, she said. Not deep. He touched her side anyway and the bond threw the pain into his palm to make a point. He hissed and she slapped his hand away and laughed once. Do not be dramatic, she said. We got out. Your rule stands. We did not kill when we could step sideways. He nodded. He was shaking. He let it ride through and out. At the coach house he barred the door and checked the traps blind with his fingers because his eyes were still full of light. Bellastrix leaned on the bench with one hand flat and the other pressed below her ribs. He split it again and steadied her. She shot him a look that said stop being noble and then did not argue. They washed the blood with clean water because some things have to be simple. He wrapped the bandage high and tight and neat. She watched his hands and did not talk until he tied the last knot. You gave them a breadcrumb, he said. I gave both sides the same truth, she said. Let them fight over it. It buys us time. Time for what, he asked. To make a world where we do not have to listen to calls that want us bent, she said. To decide who we hurt and why. To end his choices for us. He set the kettle on the coals. His finger shook when he struck the match. He did not hide it. Order saw you stand with me, he said. Good, she said. Fewer polite lies later. He huffed. You even use Hermione's word now. It is a good word, she said. She sat on the blanket. Slow. Careful. He sat opposite. The room smelled like wet stone and tea and bandage. Say it plain, he said. Did you ever think you would bow tonight? Yes, she said, without dressing it. For a breath. It hurt the way a bad habit hurts when you stop it. Then I heard you say the stop word and I remembered I am not a habit. I am a person. Even if the bond wants to make me a lever, my hand is still mine. He looked at her and felt something in his chest shift. It did not feel good. Felt true. I chose you, he said. Out loud, so it would not be something he could pretend he had not said. Over them. Over the river. Over the old man. Over the people who want to love me when it is simple. Good, she said. Now we plan for the part where they try to take that away with paper and rules and pity. Tea hissed. He poured. She cupped the mug in both hands and breathed the steam like a person who was trying to relearn warmth. He said, Tonks and Kingsley heard the snake. She said, they will tell the headmaster and he will look at a wall until morning pretending to be thinking, then send other people to do hard work for him. He said, you do not like him. She said, I like his lies less than I like my own. Mine are obvious. His wear robes. They drank and let silence do some of the work. The leak ticked once and then stopped. The room felt small and solid. Later, when the worst of the shaking had gone, he took her hand. She did not make a joke. He pressed the new wood plate. Warmth answered from her palm as the twin woke. He kept his hand on hers anyway. We do not go blind again, he said. If the bond pulls, we split it on purpose. If you feel the leash, you tell me. If I start shining, you tell me. Deal, she said. He lay back on the cushion and listened to the house settle. She turned on her side and watched the high window. The bond quieted like a cat that had finally run out of trouble for the night. Before sleep took him, he said, for the day. For the day, she answered, and they slept in a room that had watched two people choose each other in front of a river and an old enemy. And the room decided to keep that choice like a secret under the floor. Dawn found them aching and alert. Bread, water, eggs if the pan would behave. He checked the ward on the gate. She checked the trap line by the sink. He put their new plates in the box under the board. She set the ledger beside the registry plate and closed the wood with a touch. We keep going, he said. We keep going, she said. And if they come tonight, we do it again. Not because it is brave. Because we decided. He went to Grimmauld Place to play the boy who could be trusted. Hermione did not smile. She poured tea and said fewer twice before breakfast. Ron made a joke that died on his lips when he saw Harry's face. Mrs. Weasley pressed toast on him until he took it. Dumbledore watched him with tired eyes and did not ask the right questions. Snape stared at the bandage through Harry's shirt and said nothing for once. That worried Harry more. At dusk he climbed the coach house steps with a pan and 2 apples and a list in his head that he did not write down. The door hummed and gave. The ring in the floor hummed under his boots. Bellatrix turned at the bench with her sleeves up and her jaw set and laughed without humor. Tonight again, she said. Always, he said. And they set the stitch and walked the ring until Copper and Lemon sat clean and their breathing matched and the house agreed to hold. Bellatrix's knees went first. She caught the bench with one hand and missed with the other. Harry took her weight before the wood did. The bandage on her ribs went dark at the edge. The bond burned up his arm and into his teeth. "Sit," he said. "No time," she said, and tried to stand again. Her breath hitched. The bond dragged him with it. He set her back down. "Stop being brave," he said. "Be alive." She let him. That was the tell. Her mouth said fight. Her hands said hold. He cleared the bench. Kettle off. Knives aside. Map under the plate hole. He slid his wand to the edge where he could grab it without looking. He met her eyes once. "I'm gonna pull," he said. "You will not," she said. "Not if it eats you." He nodded and did it anyway. He set his palm on the bandage and opened the stitch inside the two of them until copper drowned his tongue. He pulled her pain into the center and split it. He fed back warmth and pressure and the small steady rhythm that sits behind breath. The bond fought him on principle, then understood the shape and helped. It hurt. Felt like pushing a door that only opens if you bleed on the handle. She swore once. Low. Honest. Her hand found his sleeve and held. "Harry," she said. "Enough." He kept going until his vision narrowed. He tasted pennies and bile. The room tilted and then steadied. He leaned his forehead to hers to keep the line short. "My turn to pay," he said. "You do not get to say that like a joke," she said, and clamped her jaw against a groan as the bones set with a small, ugly click. The bandage warmed under his hand and stopped leaking. He pulled the pain again and broke it in half. She let a sound out and crushed his sleeve. "We are done," she said. He pulled once more because he could feel a tear under the rib and knew if he left it, it would open when she breathed hard. The bond hit back to warn him. His heart went out of step and slammed back in. His nose bled. He stopped. She caught the blood with her thumb before it hit his lip. Her eyes were clear now, bright and steady. He swayed. She pushed him against the bench and swapped places fast enough that the bond did not complain. "My turn," she said. "No," he said. "Do not be stupid," she said. "You will not stand up straight in 10 minutes if you keep pretending you are fine. Give me your hand." He did. She pressed his wrist to her mouth and breathed warmth into the vein. Old black family trick, small and unglamorous. Steadied his pulse. She laid her palm to his sternum, closed her eyes, and listened with her skin. "You overreached," she said. "I know," he said. She hummed once. Not a song. A thread. The bond settled. His stomach rolled and then stopped trying to climb his throat. Behind them the coach house gave a small warning tick in the wards, like a nail settling. Both of them looked up. "Which side?" he asked. "Both," she said. He stripped the old bandage. The skin under it was angry but sealed. She sat up slow and tested a breath. Pain. Manageable. He tied a clean wrap tight and neat. She did not flinch. "Plate," she said. He set it in her palm. She pressed once. Warmth answered in his pocket. "Good." She tucked hers into her sleeve with the old house trick so it would not fall if she took a hit. "We cannot stay," he said. "We cannot run blind," she said. "They will expect the lane and the grate. We go through a door they forgot." He pulled the ledger and the registry plate from under the board. The hum in the floor changed pitch as the hole opened and closed. He laid the plate on the bench. The compass orb woke and pointed to it with interest. "There is a maintenance door 3 streets over," he said. "Old key. No one files the service list because it is boring." "You love boring," she said. "Keeps us alive," he said. Another tick in the wards. He tasted pepper. Ministry. Then clove. Order. Bellastrix rolled her shoulders once. "We go now," she said. He slung the bag with the stamps. She palmed 2 small shadow nets. They killed the lights, reset the trapline, and went out the side door. The mews smelled like wet stone and coal dust. The bond sat low and ready. They moved without running. The night carried their shapes and did not choose sides. At the corner, Harry set the echo and sent it at a slow walk into the first lane. 2 figures in plain coats dropped from a roof and landed for nothing. The echo kept walking. The figures swore under their breath. "Left," Bellatrix said. They took the second lane toward the service yard where the maintenance door sat behind a stack of broken crates. Harry laid the registry plate to the rusted seal. The wood side. The bond pricked. He looked up. Tonks stepped out of the yard with Kingsley, wands low but ready. Wet hair, steady feet. Harry, Kingsley said. Don't make me say please. Tonks's eyes went to Bellatrix's bandage and back. Her jaw worked once. Duty 1. She set her stance. Bellatrix's wand flicked up a thumb. Harry shook his head once. Not yet. We are leaving, Harry said. With her, Kingsley said. With her, Harry said. Tonks swallowed. You don't have to. She stopped herself and set her jaw. She lifted her wand. Bellatrix rolled her wrist and threw a small net at knee height. Tonks stepped over it without looking. She had learned fast. Kingsley did not move his feet. His eyes flicked to the plate at Harry's hand. Don't, he said. Harry put the plate to the seal anyway. The lock released. Kingsley sighed. Sounded tired. Tonks fired a stunner low and fast at Bellatrix's thigh because she was a professional first. Bellatrix caught it on the edge of the stitch and bled it into the floor. The spell crawled along wet stone and died in a crack. Harry, Kingsley said. Last ask. You know why I can't, Harry said, and meant it. He glanced at Bellatrix. You ready? Always, she said. Harry dropped the echo in front of Tonks and Kingsley and walked the other way through the maintenance door with Bellatrix at his shoulder. Tonks fired through the echo's chest and swore when it turned to shadow. Kingsley dragged the door, but Harry had already snugged the old bolt on the inside. Move, Bellatrix said. They ran into a corridor that smelled like dust, old varnish, and cold air. Bare bulbs, cracked tiles. The floor dipped once and then leveled. The hum of the city came through the pipes. Footsteps behind. Order. Ors. Both. The door shook. Voices layered. Names. Commands. Paper words turned to breath. Harry laid the registry plate to each old seal as they reached it. The doors opened like hands that remembered a child and chose to help him. Bellatrix set a silence braid behind them to make the sound of their feet wrong to ears that chased. Left, he said. Right, she said. They split for 3 steps to throw the bond into a small tantrum and make it spike loud. Their chasers turned at the noise. Harry and Bellatrix snapped back together and took the opposite turning. The bond settled again, smug. They ignored it. A figure stepped out ahead. Tall. Hat. Wand low. Moody. He did not shout. He looked at Harry like a teacher who knew the answer and hated it. Boy, he said. Don't, Harry said. Behind them. Another door opening. Boots. A clipped, calm voice giving positions. Kingsley again, moving like a map. Moody's eye clicked hard once. He saw the stitch. He saw the plate. He saw the way Bellatrix's hand hovered at Harry's sleeve if she was not touching it. You could stop here, Moody said. We can't, Harry said. Moody nodded like he had expected that. He flicked his wand at the overhead bulb. Glass fell and light died. He put his hand on the wall and stepped back into the dark instead of forward. Go, he said. Tonks' voice came fast from the turning. Alastair, he grunted. You don't always get to arrest the right people at the right time. Choose which man gets to live with it. Harry did not say thank you. He moved. Bellatrix moved with him. They took the next door and shut it on a burst of arguments they did not have time to listen to. They reached a stair that went down to a service tunnel and turned left under a street with a name the ministry had changed 3 times. Bellatrix limped once and did not apologize for it. Harry tasted copper and kept the stitch steady. The tunnel opened into a maintenance bay with old trolleys and a smell of oil. There were voices ahead now too. Not order. Ministry. A tight, clean voice and a bored one. Squad 3, check the main run, the tight voice said. Use light, not flood. If you drown civilians because you panicked, I will make you mop it. Bored voice. Yes, sir. Harry and Bellatrix cut sideways into a narrower lane where the air was cooler and followed the pipe until it met the old drain. The drain grate was small. They were smaller. Bellatrix handed him the bag. He went first. He dragged the bag. She came after. The grate rung once and then shut. The drain smelled like old metal and river. Water ran in a thin sheet. Harry's hands slid. Bellatrix's breath sounded tight. They crawled until the space widened and then stood in a crouch. Light came through slits in the stones. Not far to an exit, but not easy either. Harry heard the low thrum of a ward sweep behind them. Ministry work. It would wipe shadows and find heat. We cannot outrun that, he said. No, she said. He took the plate from the bag and pressed it to the nearest service seam. Nothing. Wrong plate. He glanced at the stamp box. He found the maintenance sigil and tapped it to the plate. The seal answered. The stone shifted and let them into a narrow crawl hidden behind the drain pipe. The sweep went by. Heat dragged past and missed. The two of them stayed very quiet and counted 10 and then 10 more. When it was gone, she let her head touch the stone. Once. He put his palm to her shoulder. The bond eased. We are not their animals, she said, steady, as if reminding herself. No, he said. We pick our own cages. She huffed once. That made pain pull along her ribs. She swallowed it. They crawled out into a cellar full of empty crates and old chalk. A door at the top of the stairs protested but opened. They came out into a dark storeroom above a defunct pub. Dust. Glass. A dead clock. He lifted the latch. Street. Cold air. Quiet. They stood under a lintel and breathed. The bond stopped trying to be a drum and went back to being a pulse. We need a hole, he said. Not a hide. A hole no one looks at. 2 days. Maybe 3. Then we go. Go where, she said, but she knew. To end it, he said. Not for them. For us. She leaned a shoulder to the brick. Her hand shook once and stopped. She looked at him. If you say you want to save the world, I will bite you, she said. I want to stop him coming between us, Harry said. That is all. Good. Say it like that when the old man asks. He blew out a slow breath. We need supplies. Salves. Food. Water. Clothes that don't scream. Wanted. I have a box 2 streets over, she said. Old black stash. No gold. I know. Do not pout. Tools. He almost smiled. When? Now, she said. Before the sweep comes back this way. They moved again. Low streets. Closed doors. Back gardens with hedges that knew secrets. She opened a coal hatch with 2 taps and a name. Inside, a small trunk under loose bricks. She lifted the lid and handed him packets and bottles and a rolled cloth with needles and thread. He kept his face plain when he saw the thin vial with a cork and dark syrup. Pain draft, she said. Not addictive. Don't look at me like that. He nodded once. He added a small tin of healing paste and another of burn cream. He stuffed a loaf and ham into the bag because even fugitives are better at everything when fed. On their way out, a lamp across the lane swung and caught their faces. They stilled. A man in a flat cap stood in the frame. Old. Eyes clear. No wand in his hand. You the ones making the fuss, he said. Harry said nothing. Bellatrix's wand did not move. He nodded once. Go on then, he said. That lot with the badges woke the baby last week. I don't owe them quiet. Harry blinked. Thank you, he said. Don't be stupid in my alley, the man said, and shut his door. They took the hint and left. The hole they chose was under a laundry 2 wards out, in a cellar with low beams and a broken mangle. It smelled like soap and damp. The floor stayed a little warmer than the lane. It was enough. They set a small ward that only warned. No wall. No challenge. Just a whisper. They ate standing up. They drank water. He set out salve and paste and needle. She glared at the needle. No, he said. Fine, she said, and held out the edge of the bandage. He cleaned the wound. It was a neat line now, closed but angry. He dabbed salve. She hissed and did not move her hand. He stitched 2 small places where the skin wanted to pull apart. He did it fast and neat. He did not say sorry because she had told him not to if he did his job properly. She tied his nosebleed with a clean cloth and tilted his head when he forgot to. He glared at her for that. She looked smug on purpose. They sat on opposite crates with their boots off to stop the bond complaining about circulation. He felt the room settle around them like a blanket. He let his head touch the wall for a count of 5 and then lifted it again. They will paint us as one monster now, he said. Good, she said. It saves time reading posters. He watched her breathe. Slow. Pain but not panic. He worked the small plate between his fingers and watched the way the twin warmed in her sleeve. He said, when did you know you would not go back to him? She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the crate. At the river, she said. When he said kneel and it felt like a joke someone had told too many times. When you said the stop word and the bond hit you for it. When I liked you better than the pain. He nodded. She looked at him. When did you know you would pick me over them, she asked. First day at the coach house, he said. When you laughed at the way the kettle sounded like it hated me and then fixed it anyway. He looked down at his hands and then up. And when Dumbledore said, my boy, like I could be a cup he poured into. She made a small amused noise that admitted that image pleased her more than it should. The ward whispered. A footstep on the stairs above. One. Light. Then gone. Laundry owner. A creak. A cough. Kettle. The building resumed being boring. Harry's eyes drifted. Bellatrix watched him. No sleeping until I say, she said. Yes, he said. A beat. Say it. Sleep, she said softer. He lay down on the floor with his rolled coat under his head because the crate would make his neck hate him later. She lay on her side facing him, close enough that the Bond side but not smug. Her fingers found his wrist and took his pulse into her palm like a habit. He woke to pain that was not his and a hand over his mouth that was. Shoo, she said, and took her hand away. He sat up slow. The ward whispered again. 2 feet. Careful. Stairs. Not ministry. Not order. The sound of someone who had learned to make floorboards forget. He breathed out. He breathed in. Trap, she mouthed. He nodded. He moved to the far side of the stair and put the echo where his head had been. Bellatrix set a thin net just above the second step. The door opened. A face peered in. Pale. Pinched. Young. Or a trainee or someone pretending. He saw the echo. He shuffled in. The net took his knees. He hit the floor with a thud and a curse. Bellatrix had her wand to his throat in a breath. Harry covered the door. Don't, the boy said. Please. Harry looked at Bellatrix. She looked at him. No romance in her face. No joy either. Who sent you? Harry said. Nobody, the boy said. Bellatrix pressed the wand to his skin. He gagged. Who? She said. A woman at the market, he blurted. Said 2 of you were down here. She smiled. She said you took something that belonged to her. I said I could look. I'm stupid. I know. Don't please. Bellatrix flicked her gaze to Harry. He saw it. She did not have a soft spot for begging. She had one for truth that sounded ugly. Go, Harry said to the boy. Leave your wand. The boy stared. Then he slid his wand across the floor. Bellatrix let him up with a rough pull that would bruise his arm and teach him to keep it away next time. He ran up the stairs, tripping once. The door shut. Silence again. Why, she asked. We are not killing for someone else's fear, he said. He leaned back against the wall and rubbed his eye. He felt very old and knew he was not. She watched him. Good, she said. I did not want to waste a spell. He huffed. He looked at the bag with the stamps and plate and ledger and then at her. We do this tomorrow, he said. No more running for the sake of it. We pick a time. We finish it. We take the snake. We cut the rest in the places he thinks are safe. Then we go. Go where? She said. Away, he said. It is not a plan. It is a direction. She nodded. She held out her hand. He took it. The bond settled like a dog at their feet. She leaned forward and kissed him once. Not long. Not sweet. Careful. Present. Her thumb pressed his wrist again to feel the life under his skin. Mine, she said. His mouth tipped a little. Yours, he said. Say it back. Mine, she said like it could be a joke and wasn't. They ate cold bread at dawn because the stove would make smoke. They washed with a cup. They changed dressings. He wrote 3 lines of notes on an old label and burned them after he said them out loud twice. At noon, the laundry upstairs banged in a way that said normal life. The ward stayed quiet. Good. They had one day. They mapped the final route on the floor with bottle caps and chalk. Bellatrix drew the manor she would not name and the vault that would not open for a stranger. She marked a place in a field where a man had fed a snake too much and called it religion. She marked 2 doors in London that were not doors unless you were born wrong. He marked the exits. He marked the stops where the stitch would be needed most. He said, if we fail, we run, she said. If we cannot, we make a hole. If we cannot, we pay it together. He nodded. The rules held because they were simple and theirs. He slept in the afternoon because she told him to. She sat with her back to the wall and watched the stairs. She drifted for 10 minutes and woke with her wand already in her hand. He pretended not to see. Evening brought rain again. Good for cover. Bad for feet. They checked bandages. They checked plates. They checked each other's faces and found the same tight line at the mouth. "You will not pull again tonight," she said. "Only if you fall," he said. "You will not pull again tonight," she repeated. He looked at her. "Fine," he said. She nodded. "Thank you." He smirked. "I'm allowed to lie to enemies. Not to you." The ward whispered for the third time that day. 3 sets of feet. Heavy. Careful. Professional. He stood. She stood. They traded one look. The plan moved from chalk to bone. "If it is them," he said, "we go through them. Stun, not cut. Smoke if we have to. No unforgivables. Not tonight." "If it is him," she said, "we do not waste speeches. We break the room and leave." They took positions. Door. Stairs. Nets set at different heights. Echo crouched under the low beam like a man ready to spring. The latch turned. The door opened on light. Figures filled it. Robes. Coats. One hat. Kingsley at the front. Tonks at his shoulder. Moody behind. Remus at the edge. Eyes on Harry, not on Bellatrix. "No Dumbledore." Kingsley raised his free hand. "Harry, stand down." Bellatrix's mouth made a thin shape. She did not move. Harry didn't either. "We're leaving," Harry said. "Not tonight," Kingsley said. His voice stayed mild. He looked at Bellatrix next. "Lestrange, don't make me set the room on fire." "Try," she said. Remus's voice cut in quiet. "Harry, please." Harry glanced at him and away. That hurt more than spells. He swallowed it. "No," he said. Moody's eye clicked. He looked at the nets and smiled with one side of his mouth. "Neat," he said. Tonks stepped forward. "Harry, if you run, we have to chase." "I'm already tired." "Then go home," Bellatrix said. Tonks's mouth twitched. "Wish I could." Kingsley's hand didn't move. Final chance. Harry's heart thumped hard and slow. He lifted his wand. So did Bellatrix. So did the 4 at the door. The room held its breath. Harry dropped the echo straight at the doorway and threw a smoke pop at the ceiling. Kingsley swore and stepped into the smoke to cover Tonks. Moody ducked under it and went low like a man who has lived through too many homes burning. Remus went high and cast a clean, sharp dispel that blew the first net like dust. Bellatrix snapped the second net into place at ankle height and took Moody's legs out from under him. He hit the crate and rolled, wand already up. Harry set the stitch and took a stunner to the pane without bleeding it into the floor because the floor would shout. The spell folded on itself and died. He felt his shoulder jolt. Bellatrix took half. She hissed and didn't miss a step. Kingsley pressed forward, eyes only for Harry. Tonks flanked right. Remus went left. It was tidy and honest and would work on anyone else. Harry stepped into Kingsley's line and spoke plain. "Sorry." He flicked his wand and took the wand from Kingsley's offhand with a small mean twist to his fingers that made the big man swear but not drop his main wand. Tonks threw a ribbon bind. Bellatrix cut it with a knife flick of her wand that left the ribbon in 3 neat pieces on the floor. Remus aimed at the bag. Harry turned the pane and let the spell slap the side of the crate instead. The crate split. The sound made him flinch because it reminded him of a door. He didn't stop. Bellatrix moved like a hinge to keep the lane open. The bond burned along her ribs. She set her jaw and took it. Harry shoved the registry plate to the back wall where the old coal door hid behind a board. The seal drank and opened a slit. He widened it with a push. The bond snarled when they moved further apart. He ignored it. He met Remus's eyes. "I am not your enemy," Harry said. "Then stop acting like one," Remus said. Bellatrix barked a laugh. "He can't." He chose. "It's clean. You should try it." Kingsley pushed again. Harry blocked again. Tonks took the angle and set a stunner that would have taken Bellatrix's ear. Bellatrix ducked and grinned at her, and Tonks rolled her eyes and muttered a word that was not professional. Moody threw a small disc at the floor. Cracked, and the sound was loud and ugly. The room flinched. Harry's left ear rang. Bellatrix's right ear rang. The bond stuttered. "Bad tool. Good result." Harry grabbed Bellatrix's sleeve and pulled her into the coal slit as the echo ran the other way. Kingsley fired blind and cursed again when he realized he had hit shadow. Remus lunged and got a hand on Harry's collar for a breath. Bellatrix's wand tapped his wrist hard and clean. Remus let go with a hiss but did not shout. Sorry, Harry said again and meant it. Go, Bellatrix said. They went. Coal chute. Crawl. Black dust in lungs. Wet at the end. Out into a yard behind a row of small shops. Cats. Bins. Rain. They ran until their legs shook and then walked until their hands stopped. The city gave them 2 corners and a gate. They took both. They reached the service run 3 streets over and dropped into it and closed the grate. Harry leaned his head to the stone. He wanted to vomit. He did not. Bellatrix put her hand on the back of his neck and held until the shakes passed. They listened. The world moved above them but did not look down. The bond eased by inches. We are done running for tonight, she said. He nodded. He swallowed. He found the plate in his pocket and felt its heat. He pressed it. Warmth answered from her sleeve. He let breath out. Tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow, she said. We end it. They sat in the dark and let the city roll over them. The water ran. A train far away grumbled. 2 lives slowed to match their own pulse. Above, somewhere, Kingsley rubbed his finger where the wand had been torn away and told Tonks to go home. Remus stood in a doorway and looked at the rain and did not cry. Moody swore at the smoke and told himself he had done it worse in his 20s. Below, Harry and Bellatrix held the silence like it was something they had earned. He turned to her. She leaned in. He kissed her once. Careful. Present. They stayed close and let the bond be quiet for a blessed minute. Then footsteps sounded above them again. Different weight. Measured. A cane on old stone. The air tasted like old books and lemon drops for 1 second and then stopped pretending. Bellatrix's fingers tightened on his wrist. Harry's jaw clenched. Dumbledore, Harry said. Yes, she said. The cane tapped once more overhead. It stopped. The voice came mild and tired and steady through the grate. Harry, please come up. Bellatrix smiled without humor. The old man came himself, she said. He does not trust anyone with the end. Harry stood. He wiped his face. He found the shape of the rules in his mouth. We don't kneel, he said. We don't, she said. He took her hand. He looked up at the grate. Ready, he said. Always, she said. And the chapter broke there, on the breath before the next door opened. The cane tapped once over the grate. Then silence. Harry looked up through the slats. Bellatrix's fingers stayed around his wrist, cool and tight. Come up, Harry, Dumbledore said. His voice was soft and steady. No spell on it. We don't kneel, Harry said. Quiet. We don't, Bellatrix said. He pushed the grate. It lifted with a dry scrape. Wet air? Lamplight. The smell of old stone. Dumbledore stood alone in the narrow court. Cloak heavy with rain. No order line in the shadows. No wand raised. Thank you, Dumbledore said. We aren't surrendering, Harry said. I assumed as much, Dumbledore said. May we talk while you tell me no? Bellatrix stepped up beside Harry. Her bandage pulled. She didn't flinch. Say what you came to say, she said. Dumbledore's eyes took them both in, the way their shoulders leaned and then corrected, the way their hands almost touched and then did. He looked tired. He looked precise. You intend to go after Tom tonight, he said. Not for you, Bellatrix said. For us. His mouth flattened. For the sake of clarity, he said, I do not mistake your motive for a public service. I only ask if we can avoid unnecessary bodies between here and there. Harry nodded once. We won't aim to kill anyone in the middle. If there's a door, we take it. If there isn't, we don't stop. And at the end, Dumbledore said. At the end, Bellatrix said, we end him. Dumbledore's gaze settled on her. You know where one of his anchors is, he said. Harry kept his face still. Bellatrix smiled without warmth. He taught me to lock boxes, she said. He forgot who taught me to open them. Dumbledore's breath went slow. The snake, he said, and something older. Harry said nothing. Dumbledore looked at him. I will not bless this, Dumbledore said. But I will not put bodies in your way. Take this. He held out a small vial. Clear. Heavy. Phoenix tears. For when your courage becomes stupidity. Bellatrix made a derisive sound. Harry took it anyway and slid it into his pocket. Dumbledore nodded to Harry's hand. Keep her alive, he said. I am, Harry said. Dumbledore's eyes softened for one breath. then went flint again. He lifted his cane like a nod. Then he stepped back into the rain and was gone. Bellatrix watched the empty lane. "He will regret living long enough to be kind," she said. Harry turned. "We move," he said. "Now," she said. They went not to a bank, not to a bright hall, but to a dead square of London where the House of Black had once kept a private cellar under a shop no one remembered. The plate knew the seam. The stone drank it. The door opened on a breath that tasted like iron and old vows. Bellatrix stepped first. The air tightened. Wards checked the bones in her hands and let her pass. "He's in the walls," she said. "My aunt loved rooms that whisper." Harry set the stitch along the ceiling and felt it hum. They walked a narrow hall lined with iron brackets and dry dust. At the end, a door of dark wood with a keyhole too small for anything human. Bellatrix pressed her thumb to the wood. It drank. The lock turned itself. The door opened on a low room with a single table and a small black chest no bigger than a bread loaf. The chest had no hinges. "He made me swear I would never open it," she said. "You're breaking that," Harry said. "Of course," she said. "Help me breathe through it." He set the stitch tight around the chest. She laid her wand flat on the wood like a knife to be sharpened. She whispered in the old family tongue and then in plain English because the room liked honesty more. "My now," she said. The chest resisted. It didn't click or glow. Pushed back like a held breath. The bond climbed hot in Harry's jaw. Bellatrix's hands shook. He split it and kept his palm on the table. "On three," he said. "On three," she said. They didn't count. They moved. She slid a silence braid under the lid and made the space inside forget how to echo. He drove a thin cutting charm through the seam, not to break, but to teach it a new edge. The chest learned and hated it. The bond snapped Harry's teeth. Bellatrix's mouth bared. She pulled. He pushed. The lid came open a finger's width with a sound like wet cloth. Inside, wrapped in a strip of old parchment, sat a small lump of something like bone that wasn't bone. Pulse slow and wrong. The room found it obscene and leaned back. Harry's stomach turned. Bellatrix's eyes went flat. "Kill it," she said. Harry nodded. He did not try to bless it. He did not speak to it. He set the mirrored aegis around it, thin and exact, like a glass blown around a flame. Bellatrix slid the cutting charm under the shield and cross-hatched the thing with strokes so fine they looked like dust in chalklight. He layered a protection charm over her lines so each cut turned in on itself. The Horcrux began to fight. It did not scream. It made the air heavy. Harry's lungs had to work. Bellatrix's old mark itched like a burn. She showed her teeth and cut again. The bond flared. Lily's love and Tom's hate met in the small bowl of Harry's hands and tried to cancel each other. He held both and let neither win. Bellatrix ground the blade of her will against the pulsing thing and then, with a short, neat motion, pressed. The bone thing folded in on itself and went still. The room exhaled. Bellatrix's shoulders dropped. Harry found his breath and heard his own heart. The bond quieted to a hot ache and then to a throb. "Done," she said. "Done," he said. She stared at the dead lump. "He made me promise," she said, soft. "He thought that made it safe. He taught you to be useful," Harry said. "He forgot you were alive." Her mouth twitched in a way that might have been humor and wasn't. They left the chest open and shut the door on it. "Next," she said. "The snake," he said. She nodded once. He pressed the plate. The city turned. They came out not far from a field that had gone to seed behind a shut chapel. The grass lay in dark lines touched by rain. A tree leaned. The air smelled like mouse and damp. A ring of stones in the weeds looked like nothing. Bellatrix looked again. Her lip curled. "He fed it here," she said. "He likes shames that no one else can see." Harry hissed a word he hadn't learned from a book. Parseltongue caught in his throat and came out clean. The sound pressed the grass down. "Come," he called. "Eat, little queen." The word bounced off the stones and slid under them. The weeds shifted. The ring breathed. Nagini's head eased out of a crack like the night was her coat. She tasted the air. She tasted Harry's tongue and liked it. She slid. Bellatrix set her wand low. The bond brightened and went tense. Harry hissed again, soft and hungry. Nagini came smooth and sure. He took a step back to draw her into the open and set the stitch like a hoop on the ground. She slid through it without looking. Now, he whispered. Bellatrix's wrist flicked. The thin cutting net sprang up around the snake in 3 bands. Not a slice. A hold, tight enough to hurt, not enough to sever. Nagini struck and hit air and hit wire and hissed. The sound made the hairs on Harry's arms try to stand. He stepped in and spoke one more word. The one the snake knew for stop. Her head jerked. Her body paused on a coil. Bellatrix's eyes were black and bright. I can do it, Harry said. I can, she said back, and the bond bit him for doubting. He let it. 3, she said. He held the head with a whisper. She took the neck with the net. The cut was clean, quick, and ugly. The world lurched. Something far away tore. The ring of stones rang like a dull bell. Harry's teeth hurt. Nagini's body thrashed once. Bellatrix didn't let it touch him. Then the movement stopped. The head lay in the wet weeds. The smell came late. Harry's hand shook. He swallowed hard. Bellatrix's breathing scraped once and then smoothed. He will hate that, she said. Good, Harry said. They wrapped the head in 2 layers of silence and 1 layer of steel. They burned the rest and watched the smoke go low and dark. The rain pinned it. The air tasted like a bad oath dying. They didn't talk for a minute. Then Bellatrix said, 1 left. Harry nodded. He pressed the plate. The city spun and stopped at a door that wasn't a door until Bellatrix said a black word and laid a less strange lie on top of it. The lock opened. A stair turned twice. They went down and came up in a room that had once been a gentleman's library, and was now a hole cut into the wall of the Riddle House. He likes old names, Bellatrix said. Harry looked at the table. On it sat a small silver box that should have been empty and wasn't. His scar itched like a memory. He set the stitch until the glass hum filled his mouth. Bellatrix lifted the lid without ceremony. Inside lay a ring made of nothing and too much. It hummed wrong. It wasn't the gaunt ring. It was a newer mistake. Tom's own finger had worn this metal when he was bored. Bellatrix smiled like a bad idea found. He made extra, she said, greedy. Of course. Harry didn't ask how many. He looked at her. She looked at him. They moved. The work was the same as in the cellar and worse. The Horcrux fought harder because fear makes liars strong. Bellatrix held it in a silence cup. Harry pressed heat and then cold to make the metal choose. Chose wrong and cracked. Something screamed without sound. The bond set itself like a bar between his heart and hers, and neither broke. The ring collapsed to grit. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Blood. Again. She thumbed it away with impatient care and did not mention it. He knows, Harry said. Good, she said. Let him come stupid. He did. The air in the room got thin the way it does before a storm. The candle flame leaned. A draft that had no door crossed their necks. Voldemort stepped through a space he made by thinking it open. No circle now. No audience. His eyes were bright as knives that never cut rope. You, he said to Bellatrix, and the word was the shape of his shock turned quiet. Me, she said. Not yours. He looked at the ring grit, at the empty silence in the small cups of the air, at the way Harry stood a fraction in front of her and could not help it. You took what was mine, he said to Harry. We took what you stole, Harry said. Voldemort's lips peeled back without humor. You cannot hold what you do not understand. We do not need to hold it, Bellatrix said. We only needed to break it. He moved. So did they. The room filled with spells that went fast and flat and hard. No audience meant no show. Harry set the stitch like a box around a box. Bellatrix braided silence into the corners and made his words thin. Voldemort's curses were not green. He had more interesting things. Thin staples that pinched the air. A black line that turned the wood old. A whisper that made Harry's left hand forget itself for a breath. Harry's answers were not bright. He killed light and made shadow into a wall. He cut wand hands and cracked kneecaps. He made the floor slick and then dry. He bled heat. Bellatrix's work was closer and dirtier. She snapped joints with mean, small rotations of force. She struck nerves. She put a slap of raw magic under his feet when he stepped, so he misstepped. Voldemort changed angles and aimed for Harry's chest with something Harry couldn't name. Bellatrix took the line on her ribs. The bond ripped. Harry tasted stars. Bellatrix swore and smiled at the same time because pain meant the line was true. She reset her stance. He reset the stitch. Psychology now, she said, low and fast, eyes never leaving Voldemort. Make him talk. Harry found his breath. You called her busywork, he said. Voldemort's eyes flicked. He hated being made to remember. You kept her busy so she wouldn't learn what she was, Harry said. She learned anyway. Voldemort's wand dipped a hair. He wanted to say something cruel. He wanted to teach. He was tired. He didn't know he was tired yet. Bellatrix laughed once. Flat and hard. You made me a dog, she said. He made me a knife. Guess which one cuts you cleaner. Voldemort's mouth moved. The curse he chose was old and deep. He threw it mean. Harry didn't block it. He turned it. The mirrored aegis took the weight and bled it sideways into the wall where the old plaster cracked like ice. Bellatrix used the pause and cut the next spell at the wrist, not the wand. Voldemort hissed and shifted grip. He hadn't done that in years. He tried to pull the bond like a leash. It didn't come. He tried to pull Bellatrix on her knees with the part of her that remembered liking the floor. She swayed. Harry said the stop word. The bond split the pane and sat like a bar in a door. She stood. He tried the scar. The old hook in Harry's head tugged once and found teeth waiting that weren't his. Bellatrix's laugh lived there now, low and wrong in hers. He hid it and his face flinched before he stopped it. He is smaller without his pets, Bellatrix said. And in that instant Voldemort hated her more than death. Enough, he said, and reached for green because pride hates to share. The light came, fast and straight. Harry didn't try to catch it. He moved Bellatrix with a hand on her sleeve and turned the stitch so the pane wasn't a wall but a slide. The curse hit and slipped and smacked into the mirror he had set at a stupid angle when they came in. It bounced stupidly, came back thin and mean and true. Voldemort twisted. The green clipped his shoulder instead of his heart. It was enough. His body went wrong at the edges. He stumbled like a man who has never tripped. He snarled and threw something ugly that howled. Harry's ears popped. Bellatrix's teeth rattled. The bond rang like iron. Do not let him reset, Bellatrix said. With me, Harry said. He shoved the stitch tight like a box around Voldemort's wand arm. Bellatrix dropped a silence braid over his mouth. He sliced the braid. She set another. He cut the box. Harry doubled it. Voldemort reached for the snake the way a hand reaches for a knife on a table and found air. It showed on his face for half a breath and that was everything. Bellatrix stepped in fast and cruel. No spell. No shine. She struck him in the throat with the heel of her hand to turn a word to a cough. She kicked his knee sideways with a short, mean motion that said, I learned to live in cages, not dance in halls. He fell a little. Harry took the wand with a disarm not pretty, just true. The wood left Voldemort's hand like it had been waiting to. Voldemort reached for the dark with both fists and found less. He looked at Harry and saw not a boy but a problem that would not move out of his way. He looked at Bellatrix and saw not a pet but a cost he hadn't counted right. He tried to open a door in the air and walk out. The room said no. Harry breathed once. He felt the vial in his pocket, the ring grit under his boot, the hot edge of the bond in his teeth, the quiet breath at his shoulder that wasn't his. No speeches, Bellatrix said, and for once he obeyed. He raised the mirrored aegis one more time and set it dead center, close as a kiss. Bellatrix hooked her silence braid to its edge and pulled. Voldemort threw the only clean thing left to him because hate is lazy. The green hit the pane and went back the short, ugly way. It did not float. It snapped. Tom Riddle died looking at himself. There was no choir, no echo. The room just got bigger because one man's will wasn't sitting in it like furniture anymore. The wand in Harry's hand lay still. The air stopped tasting like metal. The bond hurt less, then more, then less again until it found a level they could breathe with. Bellatrix stood and watched the body, not as a worshipper, not as a daughter, but like a woman who has finished a job her bones hated and did it anyway. Her mouth made a line and then let it go. He's gone, Harry said. Yes, she said. Say it again. He's gone, he said, and it didn't sound like triumph. Sounded like the end of a long, bad song. Footsteps. Doors waking. The house telling the world. They had minutes, maybe less. Harry looked at Bellatrix. Bellatrix looked at Harry. The plan that had started as a chalk map on a laundry floor finished in a room that smelled like old books and burned rings. "We go," he said. "We go," she said. They left Tom on his floor because he owed the world to the people who would come to take the debt. They didn't touch him. They took each other. London moved around them. Bells far off. A dog. Voices that would be headlines. They took low streets and wrong doors and dead lifts until the city stopped saying their names. They didn't go to Grimmauld Place. They didn't go to a cottage with curtains. They went to a coast that didn't like people and a hill that didn't have a proper name. The air tasted like salt and cold. The house they chose knew wind better than chatter. It had a roof. It had a stove that worked when you asked nicely. It had a door that liked being locked. They set wards that whispered instead of shouted. They set nets that only stung. They slept in shifts for a week because habit is smarter than hope. The bond behaved like a cat that had adopted the right house and now pretended it had chosen long ago. News found them anyway. A paper at a shop that hadn't sold one in years. A line that said he who must not be named defeated and didn't say who had done it. Dumbledore's name sat in a paragraph like a steady chair. Kingsley's like a table that won't wobble. No one printed Harry's or Bellatrix's. Someone tried. Someone else crossed it out. He made porridge badly. She made it worse and laughed at herself and at him. He fixed the kettle she hated. She fixed the window his ward had made stubborn. They didn't keep trophies. They kept a ledger with 3 rules, and the day they broke one they would write it down and start again. They didn't break the rules. Some nights she woke with the sea in her mouth and the river under her tongue and her body ready to kneel for a ghost. He sat up and said the stop word and she breathed and the bond split it and they waited it out with the stove warm and no candles. Some mornings he looked at his hands and didn't know if they were his or a pair he had borrowed from a man he would have hated at 15. She pressed his wrist to feel the pulse and said, "Yours." They didn't try to be better than they were. They tried to be as honest as they could stand. It was work. It was theirs. Once, in a town 2 hours away where no one knew their names, he saw Remus across the street buying bread. Remus looked older and thinner. He looked up and saw Harry and didn't call out. He put the bread in his pocket. He nodded like a man who knows the weight of a choice and carried it the slow way. Harry nodded back. That was all. A month later an owl found them anyway because owls are rude. It landed on the wall like it owned the stones. No seal. No crest. Just a folded paper with a neat hand. "I will not send men to your door," Dumbledore had written. "The world is not saved. It is quieter. That will have to do. If you are ever ready to come back to it, come back as you are, not as anyone's symbol. If you do not, then live. That will have to do as well." Bellatrix read it and rolled her eyes and used the paper to light the stove. Harry didn't stop her. They warmed their hands and didn't talk about it. In the spring, she kissed him in the doorway with the wind at their backs. It wasn't long. It wasn't sweet. It was present. He kissed her back. The bond made a pleased, small sound in the bones and then minded its business. "You're mine," she said. "Yours," he said. "Say it back." "Mine," she said, and it was not a spell. It was a promise and a warning and a joke they didn't tell out loud. They lived like that, not happily ever after, just ever after. They kept knives sharp and rules short and doors checked. They let the sea say their names small and wrong and didn't correct it. On a day when the wind died and the stove behaved on the first try, Harry stood in the door and watched the line where the water met the sky. Bellatrix came up behind him and set her chin on his shoulder. "Do you miss it?" she said. He knew what she meant. The crowds, the speeches, the heavy work of being looked at. "No," he said, and meant it. "Sometimes I miss being simple. Then I look at you and remember simple is just a lie that makes you slow." She snorted. "That's terrible," she said. "It's true," he said. She kissed the side of his throat once. "Tea," she said. "Tea," he said. They drank it sitting on the floor because chairs are a luxury you earn. The wind touched the window and found it shut. The bond lay quiet between them like a sleeping animal that would always wake if asked. If they had been saints, they would have walked down the hill and told their names to a clerk and sat in a room with a fire and confessed and let the world be tidy. They were not saints. They were a knife and a stitch and a ledger with 3 rules and a house that knew when to keep its mouth shut. They did not fix the world. They took the worst of a man out of it and let the rest of the mess belong to everyone else. They chose each other. They paid for it every day. They did not ask for change. At night, when the stove whispered and the sea kept slow time, Harry would sometimes wake with the old pull in his chest and remember a river arch and a voice saying kneel. He would say the stop word, and the bond would split the hurt, and Bellatrix would roll over and press her hand to his mouth and then to his wrist. For the day, he would say. For the day, she would answer. And the house would keep the secret under the floor, and the world would go on. Quieter than before, not safe, only less loud. That would have to do.